Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Sheridan here, live on a Sunday evening. Sunday evening in the East Coast, Sunday afternoon in the West Coast, or if you're in Europe or somewhere else, who the hell knows what time it is. But we are live today, a special Super Chat Sunday. We wanted to come live, and we might be starting to come live on weekends now. We are growing this company. Come hell or high water, we are growing Status Coup, and part of that is doing special broadcasts over the weekend. So tonight we're going to be live. I'm going to be live. I have no idea how long I'm going live for. 2 Sundays ago, if you remember, I went live for 7.5 hours, which was my personal record. Definitely my personal record for going live. I don't think I'll be going live for 7 hours this time because I want to go see my nephew later, but I am going to be live for a while. There's a lot of stories I was not able to cover during the week. This week, obviously, very busy week. You had the midterm elections. You had another massacre in California, murdering 12 people. You have, the recounts that are now going on in Florida. You have frankly, what I view as election fraud, in Georgia, between Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams, and there's a lot of other things going on. So we're gonna have a good time tonight. Now, why I put the headline Super Chat Sunday? Because the bottom line is we got to make some money. This company, which is Status Coup, follow the hat. We got to start making more money. We got needs to go in the field and report. We have needs to, obviously, there's additional equipment we need. And of course, we want to hire additional people. So we are coming straight to the people instead of trying to sell out and go to, corporations or try and merge ourselves into a larger media company and all those things. So if you're feeling super, you know what to do. The super chat is alive and well. You could leave a couple bucks there. Let me make sure she knows I'm live. Jen is going to be manning the super chat. David, super Status Coup chat. That's correct. And we're also trying to grow our GoFundMe, so we're going to do a little bit of everything tonight. GoFundMe, we are at, I'll show you the GoFundMe when a few more people show up. I don't know if everybody expected me to be live tonight, so we're going to be, hoping more people come in. Press the share button. Let's get this out to as many people as possible. I am live on Facebook. I am live on Periscope, and I am live on YouTube. Brandon Roos on Facebook says, "You are so awesome. Miss seeing you on TYT." Well, thank you, Brandon. Here I am. I'm not on TYT anymore, but I'm here. So thanks for watching. They really lost a great person. No comment on that. But thanks for the kind words. Definitely. If you can, Brandon, press the share button right now on Facebook. And if anybody can, I'm going to explain a lot more as we go tonight. The GoFundMe, why it's so important. We're almost at $20,000. Obviously, everybody is living within their means. A lot of the audience lives paycheck to paycheck. If you don't have the funding to contribute, that's totally fine. We understand. If you do have a few bucks, here's how you do it. It's the link is right there in Facebook. Let me put the link in the description box here so you have it on the super chat. We are trying to get to $25,000. We're trying to get to $25,000 by the end of November. We are a little shy of 20,000 right now. So let me just show you where we're at here before we get into any stories. So we're at $19,509. We're really excited that comes from 282 people. So in 2 months, we've raised almost $20,000. This has come from viewers. We have not had celebrities dropping us money or corporations or anything like that. It's come from you, the viewer. And I'm kind of floored that so many people have contributed. Honestly, let me tell you what the money is going towards and why we need a whole lot more of it. Bottom line, the equipment costs to go out in the field are a lot. We had to buy a live view, which is basically a kind of like a backpack that Ty wears with me on the road that helps us go live without all the buffering and technological issues. It helps basically create a stronger Wi-Fi signal and a stronger internet connection by merging like Verizon hotspot to AT&T. I don't want to get into the weeds and explain it, but basically LiveView helps us go live, and the quality is better, and we don't have as much buffering, so that costs money. There's monthly costs associated with that service. We have costs for equipment that we had to buy, including cameras, audio, lighting. I mean, I could go on, and Ty could explain it better, but that has cost quite a bit. A lot of the funding we've raised had to go to equipment, and obviously when you go out in the field, that costs money, but we're really trying, our overall goal is $50,000. The reason we're trying to raise $50,000 is we believe our business model is to offer you what no one else does, and that's rolling up our sleeves, getting out in the trenches, and covering the disappearing middle class, covering environmental genocide, covering the total crisis that is the income inequality gap, climate change, water contamination, pipelines. We have big ambitions, and our long-term business model is paid subscribers. Jen is working on getting that ready for our website, so you could become a monthly paid member on our website, where you'll get behind-the-scenes content and special perks as a member. It's not ready yet. So for now, we're trying to raise our GoFundMe so that we could get out in the field and stay out in the field. So every dollar counts. Even if you could only contribute today $5, that $5 makes a huge difference, whether it's through GoFundMe or the super chat in the live stream. So I'll update you as we go here tonight. And if you could do me a favor, folks, press the share button. Let's get this to as many people as possible. We didn't really promote that I was going to be live. We just decided pretty much today to go live. So press the share button and let's get this out to as many people as possible. And before I start, I want to make a few public service announcements. We are monitoring what's going on in Georgia. And I also, somebody asked, can you talk about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Tim Canova? I've been trying to get a hold of Tim Canova. I don't want to report on something where I don't speak with the people on the ground there. So I'm trying to monitor what's going on with Tim Canova. Can't really tell you exactly what's going on because I'm not down there. Again, GoFundMe. We need additional funds to go cover these kinds of things. There's definitely some questions surrounding how Tim Canova went from losing by just 12 points in 2016 and the paper ballots were destroyed and there was a lot of election fraud in that election, which I've covered, to he only got less than 5% as an independent. Doesn't really make sense. So I'm looking into it. We're just playing phone tag, Tim and I. So we will be covering that. I don't know if the election was stolen from him, but I don't believe he only got 5 percentage points. And we do know that the supervisor of elections, Brenda Snipes, who was the one who illegally destroyed the paper ballots in Canova and Wasserman Schultz's race in 2016, we do know that she's also at it again in terms of the House race, the Senate race, and the governor's race. She's been in the news because she's that incompetent and frankly corrupt. So press the share button. Let's get this out to more people. I want to start. I didn't get to cover this because I was traveling during the week and all that, but I want to start with a little recap of the midterms, my analysis, and sorting through fact and fiction. Because you have Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the Democrats, they're going out there saying the moral of this story, the moral of the midterms is the country is revolting against Donald Trump. The country is moving more towards the Democratic message, which I still don't know what the message is. She did a video saying, yay for pre-existing conditions, which kind of came off kind of weird. She did a video, she did an interview with CBS this morning that I'm going to play clips of. But basically, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are trying to put out the message that the moral of this is the Democrats are resurging, people are moving over to the Democratic Party, and Trump's days are numbered. That's basically the message they're trying to put out there. I don't think that's the message at all that we should take from the 2018 midterms. The map, the demographic map, and the amount of races that were up in the House and the amount of Republican congresspeople that retired made it kind of a, by default, the Democrats were going to retake the House. I don't think we should take some golden message that, the whole country has moved away from Trump and the Democrats are going to cruise to 2020 and retaking the White House if we just stick with milquetoast, centrist, neoliberal Democrats. I don't think that's the message, and I have reasons to tell you why. And I want to start. We're going to get into the corporate media and attacking Bernie. We're going to get into the corporate media trying to minimize progressive victories. But I want to start with this. This is the margin of defeat in Texas between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. O'Rourke. And again, share the video. Let's get this out to more people. If you can, leave some contributions in the super chat. We're going live on the weekends to offer you more content, but also to raise more money. That's the truth. I could be doing other things over the weekend, but we are working extra hard. Jen is in the live chat. We're here for you. Be here for us. Super chat, GoFundMe, the whole nine. So, the media would have you believe, because there's been a lot of articles that you know what? Let me read this article first. That's a better way to do it. So, you have this from NBC News. Progressives' plan for victory just took a gut punch. Now what do they do? The left has been eager to show it could build a winning coalition for 2020 and beyond, but that didn't happen in the midterms. Oh, you know where this is going. Progressives were hoping Tuesday's election would finally give them definitive proof that Democrats can run and win on unapologetically liberal issues in swing districts and states. That didn't happen. Despite a good night for congressional Democrats overall, nearly all of National Progressive Group's star candidates fell short in their contests in red or purple districts and states, potentially showing the momentum the emboldened left had enjoyed since Hillary Clinton's loss 2 years ago. Quote, progressives have to really do some hard thinking about the shape of the movement looking at 2020 and beyond, said progressive strategist Jonathan Tassini, adding that while the left had successes in some local races, they struggled in statewide contests. I'm going to get back to that. I actually like Jonathan Tassini, but I don't agree with him. The failure, for example, of the Ben Jealous campaign in a very Democratic state says both that sticking a simple progressive branding on a candidate's campaign may sustain a small cult, but that isn't enough to win elections. Totally disagree. Jealous, a former president of the NAACP who championed single-payer health care, never really gained traction against Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan. Other losing progressives included congressional hopefuls like Randy Iron Stash Bryce, who ran for the Wisconsin seat being vacated by Paul Ryan, and both progressive insurgents who won upset victories in primaries earlier this year against Democratic establishment-backed candidates, Kara Eastman in Nebraska and Dana Balter in New York. And Elizabeth Warren protege Katie Porter, a progressive who came out on top in a crowded primary in Southern California, is trailing in an all-too-close House race. So they get into some others. They talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley. They did win. Quote, we should really take seriously the idea that the path forward is contesting for power in primaries in the deeper blue seats, said McCalloway, who runs the think tank Data for Progress, adding that approach would help progressives for a bulwark, blah, 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 blah. So basically this, I'm not going to even bother reading the rest, but this piece wants you to believe that progressives were basically defeated. Thank you, Dana, getting the super chat started on this super chat Sunday. $10 says keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Dana. I appreciate it. Tell your peeps in the super chat and the GoFundMe. Keep it coming. So, I'm going to start with Beto O'Rourke. You're telling me that Beto O'Rourke basically he lost by a little over 2 points in Texas? In Texas is not a victory? And I've done reporting on Beto O'Rourke. I've showed you that he had some questionable donors. He's taken a lot of money from big banks. He's taken a lot of money from fossil fuels. So I didn't think his record really matched the things he was saying, but I still would prefer him than Ted Cruz. But the media makes it seem like there is no progress. There is no victories here. Texas is a hardcore Republican state. Is it becoming a little bit more purple? Absolutely. But the fact that Beto O'Rourke The Senate has not gone to a Democrat in Texas, I believe, in 25 years. That's a pretty damn close margin. If a few things bounced a different way, he could have won. And of course, people in this country, and me too, we don't want moral victories. We want victories. But, I mean, you shouldn't just say, oh, well, all these progressives that ran, well, they lost. So, it proves that Bernie's a disaster and can never win, or the progressive movement can never win. No, this total would have never happened before 2016. This margin of defeat in Texas, you're looking at a margin of defeat usually a Texas Senate race. I mean, you'd be lucky if the Democrat could come between 7 to 10 points normally. And again, he didn't win, but he was able to come within, a shouting distance, and he didn't take money from I showed you that at fundraisers he's took money from certain rich people, but he didn't take money from corporate PACs or anything like that. And he had definitely more progressive policies than Ted Cruz. I would argue that Beto wasn't progressive enough. In that campaign. I don't know if it would have meant victory, but to say that progressives didn't have any victories, these reporters, they just give you hot takes without any context. Go look at the last 2 or 3 decades of results in the Texas Senate or the Texas House of Representatives and see how close it was between Democrats running as centrist or Republican lights, Democrats running as centrist and Republican lights, compared to Democrats running as progressives. Beto O'Rourke, I don't think he's, again, I don't know if his platitudes and what he was saying match his record, but he did run a fairly progressive campaign. I think he could have been even more progressive, and he only lost by 2 points in Texas. So let's not say that in the story, claiming that progressives, don't matter at all and blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Fame Little 999 in the super chat. Thank you so much, Fame. Keep it coming, everybody. And as a reminder, if you're coming to this late, we're really, really, really pushing this GoFundMe. We're almost at $20,000. Our goal for the end of November, which is a stretch goal right now, is $25,000. So help us do it. Thank you. Daryl just contributed $11 on the GoFundMe. Keep it coming. We're at $19,520. I think we can get to $20,000 by the end of this live stream. So I am not ending this live stream until we get to $20,000. How about that? And as a reminder, $100 gets you a Status Coup hat, 100 or shirt. 127 gets you both. Jen is going to be start mailing out to the first batch of people who contributed this coming week. We were both traveling and reporting, so she couldn't send it out. But those of you who have emailed following up, we're going to be sending you the hats and shirts starting this week. We want to get that to 20,000 by the end of today. I think we could do it. But of course, contribute in the super chat too. Thank you. We got blah, 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 blah. Citizens Media TV. Jordan, you understanding MMT would change the world and put Flint and so many other progressive issues into a totally different light. I've introduced it to both Graham Elwood and Ron Placone and at the MMT New York City conference. You game? Hey, Citizens Media. Where was my invite to the MMT conference in New York City? I live in New York City. I would have come. First off, Citizens Media TV. I always say that the sign of a true leader is acknowledging what you know and what you don't know. I don't know. I know the basics about MMT. I don't know everything. I have reached out to Stephanie Kelton. I haven't heard back yet, so I'm going to reach out again. I want to interview her, hopefully in person, because she's in New York. So I'm not blowing off MMT. I know a lot of people have asked for more coverage on MMT. I know the basics. I don't know the whole thing, and that's on me. I've been covering a lot of things, but we are going to cover MMT. You have my word, and I don't know why I wasn't invited to the MMT conference. I would come. I'd be on a panel. I'd interview people, and we'd cover that. Thank you, Awijit Singh. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing. Alexandria endorsed Cuomo and Presley endorsed Hillary. I think Presley is Obama 2.0, and Alexandria is getting in line. Andrew Gillum is hanging out with Booker and Hillary. We need a third party. I'm going to get to Alexandria in a minute. Okay, so thank you for the super chat. Keep it coming. So here's what I think. And Jen, I see these comments. Can you save some of these? Like this person saying I should interview Fidel Kaboub for MMT? Because I can't keep up with the super chat. Press the share button. Let's get this out there to more people. So not only does this idiot who works for NBC, and I know this guy, he's an asshole, he says, oh, progressives didn't have any victories. So in your article, you kind of left out that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just officially became a congresswoman. Is that a nothing? Or are you just like, oh, well, that already happened, so it doesn't count? So you have, follow it with me here. Follow it with me. You have a 29-year-old bartender who was just a bartender named Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She takes down a Democrat who would have been competing for the House Speaker position. He was the top number 3 Democrat in the country, Joe Crowley was. She was a Justice Democrat candidate. She just became a congresswoman. History. A strong progressive. I don't like that she endorsed Cuomo. I don't like that. And as Jen could tell you, I've talked to Jen about Ocasio-Cortez. There's some things I don't like, but overall, hey, she's for Medicare for all. She's for affordable housing. She's for ending fracking. She's for the things we care about. We can't hold people to such a standard that if they disagree or do anything we disagree with, let's throw them out with the bathwater. Let's not be crazy. Ocasio-Cortez is a breath of fresh air. Okay? I don't think she should have endorsed Andrew Cuomo. I don't know why she's doing that. It doesn't make sense to me. He stands against everything that we believe in. There was no reason to endorse Andrew Cuomo. So we do have to hold. Just because we like people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, even Bernie Sanders, doesn't mean if they do wrong, we don't hold them accountable. We don't criticize where appropriate. But it also doesn't mean let's toss them out into the street. Okay, so as I was saying, they're trying to claim that there was just no progress was made. Progressives got killed. Well, Ocasio-Cortez won. Ayanna Pressley won. Again, he didn't win, but go look at the history of Texas politics. I have. It is remarkable. It is remarkable that they Beto basically came within a gambler's chance. 2 points he lost to Ted Cruz. And Texas is extremely, extremely Republican. There are some areas that are going purple, but not all, okay? And there are other lessons to be learned. And thank you, Citizens Media TV, for $4.99. Let me be clear. I could thoroughly introduce MMT to you so you'd have a much better question for Kelton and Kebab. I'm down. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. Let's talk. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. Then there's Andrew Gillum in Florida. And I've already reported on this and done videos. Well, the NBC article says, oh, progressives took a gut punch. Well, I already showed you Andrew Gillum was up by 12 points. He was up by 12 points right before that first CNN debate that he had with Ron DeSantis or Trump's evil stepson, Ron DeSantis, because you can't distinguish between Trump and Ron DeSantis. So Andrew Gillum, who ran as a progressive during the primary and won, who ran on Medicare for all during the primary and won, who ran on an aggressive platform as far as battling climate change, who also ran on abolishing ICE. He was up, he won the primary, and he was up in the polls by 12 points as a progressive. Then what did he do? He hooked up, well, I hope he didn't hook up, but he hooks up with Hillary Clinton, or as somebody said, Killary. I like that. He hooks up with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He hooks up with Michael Bloomberg. And in that debate, he very noticeably moonwalked faster than Michael Jackson, may he rest in peace, away from Medicare for all and away from abolishing ICE. And as that happened, all of a sudden, the polls start shrinking. He goes from up 12 points to up 7 points to up 5 points to a tie. Some people have said, including Benjamin Dixon, he's a progressive media guy. I like him, nothing against him. But he has said racism is responsible. Now, I'm white. I definitely have white privilege, like the rest of us white people. I acknowledge that. I just respectfully disagree with Benjamin on that. Now, that doesn't mean racism didn't play any role, because Florida does have racism, and Andrew Gillum was on the receiving end of a lot of racial attacks in that campaign. I don't want to minimize that. But the data is the data. He went down. He was up by 12 points. Then he has that first CNN debate, which was a national debate. Him and DeSantis, he moonwalked away from his progressive policies. He's, I'm for Medicaid expansion. They grill him. Well, what about Medicare for all? What about Medicare for all? He says, define Medicare for all. Well, Here's the exit polls, folks. Here's the midterm election exit polls. Top issue, 41% of people that voted said healthcare. Andrew Gillum moonwalked away from Medicare for All. Medicare for All polling at 70%. So I already did a video on this, but I'm here to tell you, and again, there's a recount right now, so he hasn't officially lost. He took back his concession officially yesterday. But the bottom line is, Andrew Gillum, I'm telling you, if he would have stuck as a hardcore progressive, if he didn't do fundraisers and campaign with two of the most unpopular people, two progressives in the country, Hillary Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I don't think they'd be recounting, because I think he'd be the governor-elect. And I think the data shows that racism did not cut him down by 12 points in 3 weeks. I'm sorry. There's just no evidence of that. We do have evidence that he was up by 12 points. He had a debate. In that debate, he very quickly sprinted to the center and basically sounded like, Nancy Pelosi. We need to expand Medicaid. We need to continue Obamacare. And again, I think Andrew Gillum is better than Ron DeSantis. I don't want you to get it messed up. But the bottom line is, these corporate media outlets are paid to attack the progressive movement. They are paid to make it seem like progressives can't win. They are paid to get out into the zeitgeist that, these are radical policies that people don't like. It is a win when Beto almost beats Ted Cruz, basically running as a progressive. I think it would have been a win. Andrew Gillum was a progressive loss, but, this guy Jonathan Ticini, who I actually like, I know him, Jonathan Ticini, he says in the article that, progressives need to, basically he was saying progressivism didn't win. Yeah, progressivism didn't win in Florida because Andrew Gillum stopped running as a progressive. It's not that complicated. Does anyone in the super chat disagree with me? Was I watching a different debate where he disavowed Medicare for All and wouldn't stand by it? Where he disavowed abolishing ICE? Do you think a lot of his progressive base that voted him in the primaries was loving watching him campaign with Hillary Clinton or sit at a synagogue next to Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Come on. Thank you, Henry. $2. Jordan, Jeff knows his shit. Citizens Media TV. Yeah, I told him to email me. I'd be happy to talk to him. Absolutely. So you got Beto almost won in Texas. You got Gillum would have won if he actually stuck as a progressive. Period. You got Stacey Abrams with some of the most, Stacey Abrams in the Georgia election, and I've reported on this week. Go check out the videos here on the channel. What's going on in Georgia kind of makes what went on in 2000 with Bush, Gore, the Supreme Court. It's just as bad. Obviously that had much worse implications. Bush as president was a disaster. The Supreme Court destroying democracy. That was a mess. But Stacey Abrams, literally, 340,000 people were purged. Amazing reporting, by the way, by Greg Palast. Go to gregpalast.com. I ain't mad at you, Greg, that you won't respond to my direct messages. I've been trying to interview you for like 3 weeks. Ain't mad at you. Got a lot of love for you, Greg Palast. gregpalast.com. Go check out his reporting. He's broken a lot of news on these purges. He found out that 340,000 voters in Georgia were purged. Take a guess what their skin color looked like, the majority of those voters. 340,000 people are purged in Georgia. Stacey Abrams, she's not a Bernie progressive. She's not like capital P progressive. Fairly progressive. For the state of Georgia, she's relatively progressive. She's only down by like a point, a little over a point, and it's not even credible numbers because, frankly, if those voters weren't purged, reason would stand she might have won by 5 or 6. So that's another victory. But with corporate media, you basically get a 360-degree hot take that gives you no context and basically just smears the progressive movement. There were also big victories as far as ballot measures. You had voting rights being restored for 1.4 million felons in Florida. You had marijuana legalization in Michigan. There were a lot of other great things. But yeah, progressives lost all over the country. What was the hot take? Well, I don't think that's true. You had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You had Ayanna Pressley. I got beef with both of them in certain areas, but they're certainly better than the alternatives there. You got Beto almost won. Andrew Gillum would have won. He might still win. They are having a recount. Andrew Gillum would have won if he actually stuck as a progressive. The problem is these progressives like Andrew Gillum, and he seems like a nice person. Nothing against Andrew Gillum as a person, but they listen to lifetime Democratic Party insiders who all those lifetime Democratic Party insiders are good at is losing elections. So Andrew Gillum listened to the Democratic Party consultants in Florida, to the Democratic Party insiders in Florida who said, all right, you won as a progressive in the primary, now we got to go and be a big boy. Now we got to go and fundraise with Michael Bloomberg and Debbie Wasserman-Schultz and Hillary Clinton. You can't win as a progressive in Florida. Get rid of that Medicare for all nonsense. And what happens? He goes down by 10 points. It ain't rocket science. It ain't rocket science. Noah, I am answering you in real time. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. So that's what I think. And I want to show you some things Bernie had to say about this election, because I think he's spot on. So, Bernie, here we go. My impression is that given the fact that Trump fired Jeff Sessions today in order to remove media coverage from Tuesday night, tells me we had a pretty good night. I think Tuesday night was a significant rejection of Trumpism. I don't necessarily totally agree with that. Not only did the Democrats regain control of the House, which was the most important development, Democrats won 7 governor's races. Democrats won 300 races at the state legislative. And in the 4 states, I highlighted this because this is important. In the 4 states that Trump won in order to get his electoral college majority, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, all 4 of those Senate Democratic candidates won. And 3 out of the 4 Democratic candidates for governor won. As someone who worked very hard for Andrew Gillum, that was a major disappointment. This was before the recount and Gillum took back his concession. He ran a brilliant campaign dealing with a lot of things, including racism. We'll see what happens in Georgia, whether or not they're going to count all the votes. But if Abram loses, that will be a painful loss. I don't 100% agree with Bernie here, and I just gave you all the reasons why I don't think Gillum actually did run a brilliant campaign. I think he was brilliant in the primaries, and I think it was a bad idea and a bad strategy. And I said it to some people attached to his campaign when I saw him moonwalking. One individual in particular reached out to me from his campaign, and I said, listen, I don't have a problem with Andrew Gillum. I'd rather him win than Ron DeSantis, but this is not only, I don't agree with it because I'm a progressive, but it's bad strategy to sprint away from the thing that won you the primary and the policies that are incredibly popular nationally. And Bernie's right. There was a lot of racism. Here's some other things Bernie said. So the Washington Post had an op-ed suggesting this means no fire-breathing progressives going forward. So Bernie's response to that, I'm really shocked by this. I cannot believe that that is their conclusion, given that they've been spouting that absurd line forever. And that was the line that they had, which enabled Republicans to gain control of the Senate and the House and the White House, and for Democrats to lose almost 1,000 seats in the previous 9 years. Tell them, Bernie. Of course, that's what the establishment will say, and that's what the establishment Democrats will say. But the truth is, what happened in this election is a significant step forward in terms of the revitalization of democracy. It wasn't moderate Democrats or conservative Democrats who got young people into the political process. It wasn't moderate Democrats who increased voter turnout in this election compared to 4 years ago, I think by almost 50%. It wasn't just moderate Democrats who won incredibly great victories for the House. There were some moderates, to be sure, but I think the Washington Post is going to be very surprised at who shows up on the first day of Congress and gets sworn in, because that's going to be the most progressive freshman class in the modern history of this country. Many of these folks are not just women, not just people of color, who campaigned on Medicare for All, raising the minimum wage to $15, campaigning on making public colleges and universities tuition-free, undoing Trump's tax break for billionaires, the political establishment notwithstanding, the future belongs to progressives. And I think a point he made that's super important here was the point, it wasn't moderate Democrats or conservative Democrats who got young people into the political process. It wasn't moderate Democrats who increased voter turnout in this election compared to 4 years ago by 50%. And by the way, it's going to be super important to defeating Trump that the millennial, you had huge young and millennial turnout in 2016. You're going to need a lot more You're going to need a lot more in 2020 to take out Trump. And I think Bernie is the best candidate to take out Trump. I have given you my analysis on that many times. I will continue to give my analysis. Bernie Sanders, every single popular policy in this country, he has been the one pushing it. And as he has pushed it, the policies have gotten more popular, including Medicare for all, including free public college, including ending private prisons. I could go on. Thank you, Awijit. Send me if you're doing a super chat how to pronounce your name, so I don't want to disrespect you. Thank you, Widget, $5. Jordan, are you still friends or in contact with Jimmy Dore and Cenk? Also, keep up the good work. I am friends with Jimmy Dore. I am certainly not friends with Cenk. I'll leave it at that as far as the latter. But I am very good friends with Jimmy Dore. Yes, he's a good friend of mine. We just talked about a week ago, so not gonna give details of that talk. But Jimmy's a good friend and has been very, very kind and supportive to me. So I support Jimmy, and Jimmy's been very helpful to me throughout the last year. So that's some of what Bernie said. One more thing. Oh, do you have thoughts about the leadership in the House? And this is a good segue, because I'm going to get to Nancy Pelosi and her, painful interview this morning. Bernie says about the House, I'll let them deal with it. I'm obviously not a member of the House, but this is what I absolutely do believe. I absolutely believe that from day one, the Democrats in the House have got to come out with a progressive agenda that speaks to the needs of working people. And that leads to, as you know, the Medicare for All bill I introduced, which is to be implemented over 4 years, lower the eligibility age from 65 to 55, covers all the children, and lowers the cost of prescription drugs. My guess is that about 80% of American people would support a proposal like that. It's wildly popular. And that's what the Democrats have got to do. They've got to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. They've got to make public colleges tuition free. They got to lower student debt. All of these proposals are enormously popular, and they're good public policy. And here's what I think, Matt, that maybe nobody else in the world believes. As you know, Trump is 100% political opportunist who has no political views other than how he can win elections. The rest of that quote was basically saying, go on offense, make Trump and the Republicans say no to Medicare for all. Who, by the way, Trump during the campaign said, yes, everybody's got to be covered. Everybody's got to be covered. That's what he said during the campaign. So put him on the offense. But of course the Democratic Party is not going to do that because they don't want Medicare for all. Their donors won't let them have Medicare for all. Their pharmaceutical corporation, fat cat donors won't let them have Medicare for all. Absolutely not. So I think Bernie's spot on here. I don't agree with him 100% that it was a complete rejection of Trumpism. I think part of it was the map. That helped. You had so many Republican Congress people retiring, so it set up more opportunities for Democrats to win. I do think a lot of suburban people pushed away from Trump, but at the end of the day, the name of the game to defeating Trump is the Rust Belt and the purple leaning to conservative states. Those states still, by and large, I mean, Indiana went to a Republican. Missouri, which Bernie almost won the primary there, by the way, went to a Republican in the Senate. But Bernie Sanders, look how close the Wisconsin governor race was. Scott Walker finally out. I think he lost by a point. Look at, you have Wisconsin, Michigan, a Democrat won, but I think that was more of basically people falling out of favor with Rick Snyder in Michigan than a rejection of Trump. So don't just buy, these 4 states that Trump won, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, necessarily means that Trump is dead in 2020. Not so. Not so at all. So before I get to the painful interview Nancy Pelosi did, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely check out the promo video for Status Coup. I hope it gives you a little flavor to maybe contribute to our GoFundMe before the weekend's out. Here we go.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're in tonight with the president not saying something, not tweeting, not punching back. Nothing at all about Stormy Daniels.
I don't like that people like when I'm with you more than when I'm not.
Lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground.
Our kids breaking out in blisters.
Lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground. Why-ya-hi, why-ya-hi.
The government and the media would rather focus on the president's tweets, scary boogeymen from Russia, instead of people being poisoned.
We were driving up and we started seeing the lines to this church here. A lot of the churches in Flint are distribution centers for free bottled water.
It's sad to see that 4 years later, we're still going through the same thing as if it happened 3 months ago.
They said, oh, your water's totally clear for lead, it's fine. There's no way for them to know that.
I really do believe that this water, from us consuming all of this stuff, that is what caused my miscarriages.
I'm all broke out. I have picked my own pictures. I'm all broke out. I'm diabetic. I have like webs. And this is from the water.
You killed his body, then you killed his name. Why are you here if you have no answer?
Eric Cherry was killed on the streets of Chicago at 16 years old. That's my grandson.
We saw 24-year-old Maurice Granton shot in the back while running for police.
Right now, there is a hunt, and black boys are the prey.
When it was communities who are mostly wealthy, mostly white, it's like the pain is felt. But with something about our communities where I see our youth having to fight, literally needing support to get the rest of the world to understand that the everyday shootings they have to see and go right back to school after their friend was killed is just as painful. Like literally having to convince society that we can't take more pain, that we can't take this no more.
Polluting the water? Since when is profit more important than water? When is profit more important than people?
Hey, it's Jordan. I'm here in Flint, Michigan. I am here on Lakeshore Drive here in Chicago. I am here live in Dallas, beautiful Virginia. Hey, it's Jordan. I'm live in Arlington, Texas. Look at this destruction. You're not going to see this anywhere. You think CNN's coming up here? Please. Yeah, if you could prove Putin cut down the trees, they'll be here in a jiffy.
Status Coup. Is now it's going to be called? Is it going to be statuscoup.com?
Yes. Most people are not lacking compassion. Most people do not know what the fuck is going on. There you have it, folks. Great job, Ty Bayless, who, by the way, we're going to be showing some other videos from Ty tonight. So thank you for that great work, Ty. And we are definitely trying our best to keep growing this company. And it's going to take you, honestly. Our business model long-term is not GoFundMe, but of course, any company needs some startup money. We have not really been trying to get big, massive corporate donations or corporate funding, because we're not taking money from corporations. We're taking money from the viewers. That obviously means that it's a harder path to take. That's why a lot of people don't generally take that path, shall we say. They go for the easy money. We're not going to do that. We are going trying to get money from everyday people that watch our audience and depend on our reporting. And I should tell you, I'm going to be exposing some things about the corporate media in a little bit, but thanks to you and the GoFundMe funding that you have contributed to us. Again, we're at, what are we at right now? Hold on. We're at $19,540. Thank you to Karen, who just contributed $20. Thanks to you and this funding, we were able to get to Flint several more times. And right now, I can't go into full detail. The story that Jen and I just reported, that major investigation that shows very clearly that the state of Michigan cheated on the Flint water testing and artificially lowered those lead levels in Flint. I'm going to have a little bit more on that in a little bit if you missed that story. Right now, that story is in the hands of lawyers, not our lawyers, lawyers that have already won a lot of money from the state of Michigan for the city of Flint. Our story that proves through old school reporting, that reporting happened because you sent us to Flint through your contributions. That story right now is in the hands of some very, very successful lawyers that might be suing the state of Michigan because of the information we revealed. Again, We couldn't do it without you because we're not trying to target big corporate donors or corporate investors or those things. We're trying to start out through people power, through grassroots funding. And it's really, really hard to do that. So through your contributions, we could definitely make this happen. We could actually help create change in the country. But we need your help to do it. I know it's kind of tough because we've been pushing the GoFundMe now for 2 months, so it's hard to it doesn't seem as urgent. It is urgent. We need to grow our funding, get more seed money to get back into the field. We're going to be covering a lot more things in Flint as we go. So thanks to everybody who's been contributing, and I'll play some other videos as we go. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. All right. So Nancy Pelosi. Oh, boy. She was on the Sunday show this morning. I'm going to go through some of the clips because if this is what the Democratic Party is selling in the age of Trump, get ready for re-election because this is bad. Here we go.
A limitation to that you see?
Well, we are responsible. We are not scattershot. We are not doing any investigation for a political purpose, but to seek the truth. So I think a word that you could describe about how Democrats will go forward in this regard is we will be very strategic.
No investigation for a political purpose, you say.
That's right.
A number of Republicans would say, come on. There's always a political upside or downside to moving forward with some of these investigations.
Well, if the Republicans would say that, they're just projecting their own attitude toward investigations, which was very political. We are coming to do something that is very important for our country, a more open Congress with accountability to the public, with a seeking bipartisanship where we can find it, stand our ground where we can't.
The president has been saying that there's election fraud in Florida. What do you think is happening in Broward County? Is this election fraud, and is there a role that Congress needs to play in upgrading election infrastructure?
Well, yes to the second part, but let's go to the first part first. My experience with the president is any time he charges somebody with something, he's just projecting what he might have done himself. We are not engaged.
Election fraud?
Well, obstruction, suppression of the vote.
Oh, God. That's the first part. So, thank you, Patrick, for the $5. Where's the membership option for Status Coup? We're working on that right now, actually. Jen is working on getting the membership section of our website ready. So you can become a member. Until then, you could obviously become a Patreon. It's patreon.com/statuscoup. If you want to be a monthly subscriber, we definitely will have a membership section for Status Coup with a lot of cool behind-the-scenes content and perks for members. We're getting that ready as we speak. Frankly, Jen is doing the job of 15 people, so it's kind of hard sometimes to have everything ready in time. Jennifer, thanks for the $20 in the super chat. Appreciate it. So, what is the Democratic Party investigating that is going to make a difference? You got Mueller's investigation. I've said all along, I'm fine with his investigation. Let's see where the cards fall. I think the media has been hysterical about his investigation and been speculating about his investigation, but overall, let it be. But what is the Democratic Party going to investigate that's going to change the mind of the Trump voter? You're going to investigate his taxes? Here, I could tell you what his tax returns probably say: that he didn't pay any taxes, that he makes a lot that he's worth a lot less than he says he is, and that he probably had financial dealings with Russia and possibly money laundering. Well, guess what? There's not a Trump voter in America that's going to care about any of those things. Not one. Want to know how I know? Because I've been around America and I've interviewed a lot of Trump voters. You want to investigate and subpoena his tax returns? That's not going to sway the independents. That's not going to sway the Obama voters that moved to Trump. That's not going to sway the, 100 million people that don't vote? Majority of this country doesn't vote. So you're going to spend time investigating what? Trump's tax returns, the Trump Foundation. His voters know he's scummy. It's baked into the equation. They don't care. They like him because he's tough. They like the brand, the show. They don't care about his taxes. You could find out that his taxes, that he's worth $500,000. They won't care. Save the video. They're not going to care. But you want to spend time investigating. How about the answer she should have said, no. What we're going to investigate is why Donald Trump's tax cuts, the majority, 83% of it went to the top 1%. That's what we want to investigate. We're going to investigate why Donald Trump, as a candidate, said we're going to cover everyone, but now he's trying to repeal pre-existing conditions, and we're going to investigate how to get everyone covered through something called Medicare for All, which 70% of Americans approve of, and 52% of the Republican Party approve of. Holy shit, that's a winning message, wouldn't you say? Again, let's look at the exit polls. 41% of midterm voters said healthcare top issue. That is the answer she should have. She should say, we're not interested in investigating Trump's tax returns. We're not interested. We'll let the authorities investigate that. We're going to spend our time as the House majority investigating how to get all Americans health care, how to get all Americans education, how to get jobs for inner cities, how to get jobs for the people work sustainable full-time jobs for people that are working 2 to 3 jobs. And we're going to investigate how to wind down all of these wars that we're embroiled in. It's Veterans Day tomorrow, and we're at war, I think, with 7 countries now, and we've been at war with Afghanistan almost for 20 years. Maybe we should investigate that, Miss Pelosi. Don't you think? Don't you think? Here's more of this. Her answer on immigration. Terrible.
Vote on immigration. Would you try to block any attempt to fund the border wall?
Let's just enlarge that issue into what we need to do as a country. We certainly have to protect our borders, and Democrats know that, and we have always worked to do that.
So you'd be open to supporting this?
No,
As Speaker, would you ever shepherd that legislation?
Protecting our border, and we have done that. And there are many ways to protect the border before tens of billions of dollars building a wall where technology and personnel and the rest could possibly do the job. But whatever it is has to be tied to comprehensive immigration reform. What this administration has done is undermining our values, taking babies out of the arms of their moms. As you're a new mom, you understand that bonding very well. As my mother of 5, grandmother of 9, understand that bonding very well. Let's take the baby out of the arms of their moms. Let's separate families. Shameful. And what the president just did in the last day on the executive order flies in the face of even what the evangelicals, who are his big supporters, have said. The evangelicals have said the United States Refugee Resettlement Program is the crown jewel of America's humanitarianism. And what the president did does not recognize what the law of the land is and in terms of refugees.
But Speaker Pelosi, if you're...
Oh, Jesus.
Speaker, as you said you are confident you will be, would not in principle oppose a border wall. You would have the conversation if it's part of comprehensive immigration reform?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah. Let's pretend that immigration is a major problem in this country because we want to play on Trump's battlefield. Obama deported more people from the border, I think, than any president before him. Immigration is not a major problem in this country. This is an issue that Trump and the Republicans use to gin up racism, to gin up the culture wars, and to scare the living hell out of their voters. Thank you, Redneckonomics. I live in Trump for $5 in the super chat. I live in Trump country, and I promise you, nobody cares about his tax returns. Only that he promised jobs when Clinton didn't. Redneck Economics, could you start your own YouTube channel and say that? That's what I'm saying. Nobody cares about his tax returns. Everybody knows he's lying about his taxes. Everybody knows he's lying about where he got his money from. Everybody bakes into the equation he probably was a criminal and broke the law. Most of his supporters do, and they don't care. Actually, they probably would support him more if they find out he did that. Or paid no taxes. It's unbelievable. But here's the answer that an actual leader would have said. Oh, you already did Redneck Economics? Email me your YouTube channel so I can check it out. Email Jordan@protonmail.com. Email Jordan@protonmail.com. Here's the answer. No, we're not giving a dime to his border wall, which is a wall of bigotry and a wall of we are an inclusive country and we welcome immigration. Yes, we need to have border security. Yes, we need to make sure that dangerous people are not coming into the country, just like we need to make sure that dangerous people that already are legal citizens don't blow up schools, don't shoot up bars. The actual threat to America, if Nancy Pelosi had the courage to say it, isn't from immigrants. It's from domestic white terrorists that you saw at this synagogue and this bar and at movie theaters and at schools. I could go on. Henry Gustav says immigration is an issue like building a mosque in Manhattan was an issue. Why are you this fucking? And I don't want to say it because I'm going to be called sexist, and you can't attack Nancy Pelosi. But why are you even in politics, Nancy Pelosi? What's the point? You don't. The answer is no. We're not giving him any money for a wall because we don't need a wall. Immigration is not an issue. And by the way, in this exit poll, yeah, immigration was an issue, 23%, and I'd beg to tell you, a lot of that was actually people against that wall and against Trump's bigotry. It's unbelievable that Nancy Pelosi, basically she thinks so that they could play to, who are they playing to? So yeah, well, I'm not saying we won't give him money. And you know what? Guarantee you, Democrats will give him the money he wants for this non-existent wall, which isn't even a real wall. It's like it'll be a wall in certain places and a fence in others and digital. It's ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. Thank you, Trudy, $2. Trump tax returns, emolument clause. Thanks, JC. Ugh, Pelosi. Press the share button. We're at 174 people watching. Let's get this out to as many people as we can. But this one was a real doozy. This one for Nancy Pelosi was a real doozy.
Pre-existing conditions and something they want to actually protect. So what does that actually mean in practical sense? Do you think that there is any room for reform of ACA, of Obamacare?
Well, you have two different questions. One is the pre-existing condition as a benefit, not being a barrier to getting coverage, is part of the Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. The Republicans have tried to disrupt that. They did it in their Trump Care or I Don't Care bill that he had, and it was defeated. They now are they didn't succeed in the Congress, so now they're going to the courts. Any large number of Republican attorneys general throughout the country have brought suit against the pre-existing condition benefit, and instead of protecting the law of the land, the president has sided with those attorneys general who want to eliminate that benefit. They misrepresented during the campaign where they were on this. They have another chance now with us in the majority to join us into removing all doubt that the pre-existing medical condition is the law of benefit, is the law of the land.
Does this change anything for you in terms of your sense of needing to stay here?
But the more
needing to stay as speaker.
Well, I'm staying as speaker to protect the Affordable Care Act.
Oh.
That's my main issue, because I think that's again about the health and financial health of the America's families. And if Hillary had won, I could go home. Nobody from California ever gets Potomac fever. You may know that. God. But
that's still your North Star right now, though.
What?
The protection of the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, that's that. I mean, I hope we will have a woman president very soon, but that's not the fact that we almost had one would have been motivation for me to say there's a woman at the table. It's very important. You cannot have.
So, I want to make something clear. Is the Affordable Care Act better than what came before it? Yeah. It is. Pre-existing conditions is an important thing. But when Nancy Pelosi says, I'm staying in Congress to protect the Affordable Care Act, so you're staying in Congress to protect a plan that still produces insanely high deductibles that prohibit people from going to see a doctor or getting life-saving care? Because that's what Obamacare is. You're staying in Congress to preserve a program that basically has produced less options for most people than more options. You're staying in Congress and as Speaker to keep a program that makes such barriers, makes deductibles really high, co-insurance, co-payments super high. That's what you're staying in Congress for? Yes, pre-existing conditions is important, but for the majority of people, even if you get covered for your pre-existing conditions, the plans under Obamacare have excessive deductibles and co-insurance and co-pays. I know because I've looked into them for myself. Obamacare is better than, you're shit out of luck, go to the emergency room, but it is not a health care plan. It is a blowjob to the insurance companies. That's what it is. That's why the insurance companies jumped on board, because it is a plan that was literally written from the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing, right out of Newt Gingrich asshole think tank. Excuse my French on this Sunday evening. 6 o'clock on the East Coast, 3 o'clock on the Gold Coast, Pacific Coast. No, she should be saying that, you know what? Obamacare was a great start. We're not going to pass. We're not going to do anything to mess with Obamacare until something else is passed. But it is time. 70% of this country want Medicare for all. Government can do good. We have seen that from FDR. We have seen that in some cases from other presidents. Medicare for all is wildly popular in the Democratic Party at 85%. 85%. Medicare for all is popular 70% overall. Medicare for all is popular 52% overall. So you have to ask, why is Nancy Pelosi not pushing Medicare for all? The polls tell her to. The movement of the country tells her to. The exit polls in the midterms tell her to. Why? Because her donors and her masters won't let her. To say you are staying as Speaker to protect the Affordable Care Act? Ugh. Again, I'm not minimizing that the Affordable Care Act helped a lot of people. I think it's major that pre-existing conditions are covered. But all you got to do, take a survey, and I'm sure a lot of you in the Super Chat, we are in the Super Chat, feel free to contribute, can tell you, the deductibles didn't go away. They're still high, and to the point of being prohibitive from even getting exercising your health insurance or going to see a doctor. And Redneckonomics, oh my God, I'm so happy you said this, Redneckonomics, because I could tell you, Redneckonomics says, and include dental for Christ's sakes. How is that not considered a part of our health? So let me tell you a little story, Redneckonomics, and all of you watching. I try not to make things about myself, but I do have a little story for you. Okay. So as you know, I was let go from the Young Turks in November, so, that happened. I stayed on health care through a program called Cobra. That happened. But I no longer had dental insurance. Never had a cavity in my life until I was let go from the Young Turks. Maybe it's just bad juju. Had to get a root canal in February. That cost me, out of pocket, $4,000. Just had to get another root canal. That has now cost me $2,000, and I didn't even put in a crown. On my tooth. So dental care, and Bernie put this in his Medicare for All plan, dental care can be more expensive in some cases than health care, but dental is part of your health care. Russian bot, I like your name, says, my dental work destroyed my savings. And by the way, I have another cavity that I'm not getting clean because it's $400 a tooth. So as somebody who's trying to launch a company, as somebody who right now is living off his minuscule savings, I haven't taken a dime yet. Actually, I have. I've taken very little money from this company, Status Coup. I'm living off my savings and getting hit with thousands of dollars. And I'm lucky because I don't have any children. I would like them, but I don't have children, and I don't have extra costs that go with childcare or school or education and those kinds of things. What if I did? There's a lot of people that might be walking around with severe tooth pain and teeth problem because they got to put food on the table for their kid, and they don't have the dental insurance. And every time I go to this dentist, it's such a scam. Okay, so I went to the dentist. Root canal was the procedure was $1,600. Okay, the crown, which I haven't gotten yet, is another $1,500. And then she says we have to do a build-up procedure after the root canal, before the crown. Didn't tell me that was another cost, so I get the build-up the other day. That's another $600. Trudy says I have deep holes in my tooth. So I'm not complaining because a lot of people have worse than I. But Nancy Pelosi, she needs to get out of San Francisco, where she represents. She needs to get out of D.C. and take the pulse of America. Obamacare is not adequate. It was a small step. Obamacare equals Romney care, correct. Small step in the right direction, but it is not adequate. Period. Not adequate. So you got her in this interview placating Trump and his base, basically saying, yeah, we might give him money for the border wall. Fluffy bunny, I'm not ignoring my dental cavity. I'm going to go get it filled. But to tell you the truth, right now money's extremely tight for me personally. I try not to talk about it because I'm not begging for money for me personally. I'm trying to get money for status quo. But I'm going to have to find a way to get this cavity filled. I've had a lot of extra costs that even people who are bringing in stable money don't want. But right now, I'm not bringing in personally stable money. The money that we're bringing in is going to in-the-field reporting. It's going to Ty, to Jen, and other things that we need, including equipment. So I haven't taken much money from this company at all. So, Nancy Pelosi... if this is what Nancy Pelosi is selling, and I think she will get reelected as the House Speaker. And again, I think it's great that we have female leadership in this country. She obviously was Speaker first. I wouldn't mind seeing another female Speaker. I would love to see a female president. Not against those things. I'm against corrupt females or males, and she's corrupt. And by the way, she played a big role in California knocking down single payer. She helped kill that in California. If you're living in California, you should know that. Somebody asked, what do I think of the emoluments clause? I do think they could look into the emoluments clause because obviously Trump has broken the emoluments clause, which is basically laws that prohibit a sitting president from basically making. The emoluments clause has to do with his kids, I think, working in the White House and his kids, and basically that he's making money off of the company still and this and that. Of course they should look into that. But again, that's not going to win votes. I'm not talking about what could get him impeached, which I don't think he's going to be impeached. I'm talking about what will attract and start picking off his base, Trump's base. It's not going to be going after his taxes or the emoluments clause or any of that stuff. It's going to be, you have to be for something and persuade them that you are the real populace. We, the Democrats, I don't want to say we because I don't really consider myself that, but we, the Democrats, we, the candidate against Trump, are actually the populace. But they're not going to do that because they're not populist. So let's get an update here on the GoFundMe, and my business partner Jen tells me because we are really pushing to try and get to 20,000 by the end of today. So right now we're at 19,558. Obviously we got a ways to go, so that would be, what do we need? $440 something we need by the end of today. I think we could do it. If we fall short, we fall short. But what we're going to do, and Jen and I were just texting, what we're going to do is anyone who has donated to the GoFundMe today and anybody who donates going forward today, before we get to 20,000, all of you are going to be invited to a call with Jen and I this week. So if you donate today, anyone that donates today to get us to 20,000 will be invited to a call with Jen and I this week. And we, obviously when you donate, we get your email, so we will reach out to set that call up. So even if it's $5, $10, $15, we want to get to 20,000 by the end of today. Anybody who contributes today, we're setting up a call this week where you can ask us anything, give ideas, tell stories, giggle, cry, whatever you want. That's what's happening. And before I move on to the next topic, I think it's important. We're not just a live stream. We're not just a progressive media family here. We're a family here. So when one of us are down, when one of us are not feeling well physically, when one of us are going through rough times, we all need to stand up together. So I will tell you, I'm not going to get into it that much. Jen's been a little sick this week, and she's feeling bad. And I've been calling to make sure she's feeling better and seeing what I could do. So what I would like you to do, if you're watching, in the live chat, tell Jen why she matters very much to this progressive movement and to you, because she needs a pick-me-up. She's not feeling well. I haven't been feeling well either, but we want Jen to know how much she is needed and how much we value her, period. Because every one of us physically, every one of us emotionally has ups and downs, but I want to make sure that we together lift each other up. So Jen is the president of Status Coup. She is running the business. She is helping to grow. Not helping, she is growing. And yes, Boo Fry, somebody has to keep control of me. Oh, by the way, I should have said with the GoFundMe, I haven't even showed you. Not only are people who contribute today to get us to that 20,000 going to be invited to a call, you obviously know if you contribute $100, you get a Status Coup hat or shirt. $200 gets you the swag bag. I love this bag. So this bag's coming to you for $200. You'll have a lot of signed goodies in the bag, including a Status Coup pen. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, I got rid of everything else. So you get the Status Coup pen. There's also Status Coup water bottles. I might have a Status Coup fleece that's very comfortable and badass. So $200 gets you the Status Coup swag bag. $250, I don't know where I put the picture, but gets you a Status Coup backpack. So there's a lot of good stuff with your name on it. So help us create the media revolution. But also let Jen know and tell her, send her your feel better wishes. Sarah Love just says, "Hey Jen, feel better. This is my first time to your live. Just subbed." And I'm about to get to a story. Not about to. This is 2 stories from now. We're about an hour into this live stream. I'm going to keep going. If you'll have me, I'm going to keep going. So, we're going to get into a story that also hurt Jen and me a little emotionally and mentally. And we're going to explain to you why that story was killed. We're going to give you a little behind the scenes of how corporate media works. SH Book, thanks for telling me I'm a joke. Oh boy. Redneck Economics, thanks for the $5 in the super chat. If you want to win Trump voters, give them a solid plan of what you're going to do for them, like Bernie did. That's how he won the primary here in West Virginia. Oh, Redneck Economics. Redneck Economics, this is what I've been saying. She's speaking the truth. This is what I've been saying. Give people what you're for. Give people what you're going to do. That's why Bernie's so popular in these places. That's why Bernie's popular when he goes into places like Mississippi. Jen, you are Tonto to Jordan's Lone Ranger. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds badass. Keep the nice comments coming to Jen. And as a reminder, there's a super chat. That super chat helps Jen, it helps me, it helps Status Co. Jordan, they're calling you a fraud too, Jordan. I don't know who they is. I don't really care who's calling me a fraud though. So, want to get to, in America, as you know, if 10 people, 12 people, 15 people, 20 people are killed in a mass shooting, it's now covered for, I don't know, maybe the media will cover it for like 6 hours, maybe a day, move on. I didn't really watch the Sunday morning shows, but I'm pretty sure they barely covered the shooting in the California bar a few days ago. Basically, people just get massacred, and it's just that's America, and we move on back to whatever Trump tweeted. I think Boo Fry says less than one news cycle. Yeah, you're right. So I want to read this to you because I think it's very upsetting, but it also is very illuminating, I think. So here is apparently the killer at the California bar that killed 12 people. Apparently he was posting on social media during it. And I think what he posted was really, I haven't seen many people talk about this, but I really think it's very revealing of a larger thing. So, I'm not going to mention his name. The shooter. I'm not going to. You can read his name. The gunman who killed 12 people at a country music bar posted on social media during the deadly rampage, according to law enforcement officials. The first call to law enforcement came in at 11:19 p.m. Wednesday, officials said. The authorities arrived at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks, California, 3 minutes later. They entered the building at 11:25 p.m. The shooter first posted on Instagram at 11:24, quote, "It's too bad I won't get to see all the illogical and pathetic reasons people will put in my mouth as to why I did it," the military veteran said in the post. "Fact is, I had no reason to do it, and I just thought, I guess, fuck it or something. Life is boring, so why not?" Long posted. 3 minutes later, he posted, "I hope people call me insane." 2 smiley face emojis. Would that just be a big ball of irony? Yeah, I'm insane, but the only thing you people do after these shootings is hopes and prayers, or keep you in my thoughts. He added, every time, and wonder why these things keep happening. So, listen, I don't want to speculate on why this guy did it. He is obviously disturbed. Thank you, Kathy. $20 in the super chat. Can't thank you enough for that. Essential Tremors has taken my voice, so can't talk to you, unfortunately. Hope you make it to your goal. Get well soon, Jen. You do matter. Kathy, I'm sorry about your tremors. Thanks for the $20, though. And I hope when you do feel better, you can talk. And thank you, Trudy, $5. Rich Russian women staying at Trump resorts giving birth for dual citizenship. I don't know what you're talking about, but that sounds juicy to me. Rich Russian women staying at Trump resorts giving birth for dual citizenship. So here's the key part. Obviously, the guy's not well in the head. We know this. But, yeah, I'm insane. But the only thing you people do after these shootings is hopes and prayers or keep you in my thoughts every time and wonder why these things keep happening. I don't want to speculate, but it sounds to me like the killer, we don't know the exact reason he did this, but was almost sending a message as part of it. The killer was basically saying, this country is so fucked up that this isn't going to matter. That what I'm about to do doesn't matter. Obviously, when he's saying life is boring and why the hell not, he's obviously not mentally well. And I've given you my thoughts this week on mental health issues versus gun control. I could say it again, but I think, yes, there are mental health issues in this country. There's mental health problems in every country. And we do need more investment into mental health. I've had barriers to getting mental health treatment. I know friends that have had barriers to getting mental health treatment. There's definitely a stigma associated with mental health treatment that shouldn't be there. Mental health problems are no different than physical problems, but society has made them different. But the bottom line is, when he's saying, life's boring and why the hell not, and you guys, all you're going to do is give thoughts and prayers, and maybe you should wonder why this is still happening. I want to be very clear. I'm not defending this shooter, and I'm not saying he's very insightful. I'm pointing out that I think part of why he did this, or might have done this, is to basically send a message. Why would he say, but the only thing you people do after these shootings is hopes and prayers, or keep you in my thoughts every time and wonder why they keep happening? To me, again, there's no, you can't really make sense of the nonsensible. You can't make sense of somebody that, oh, life's boring, let me go shoot up a bar. That's obviously not the reason he did it. There are obviously mental health issues associated with this man. I think mental health, although it is prevalent in a lot of these shootings, it's not the reason these mass killings are happening. The reason these mass killings are happening is because we make weapons of war and mass killings available to just about anyone in this country. Because there's mental health problems in other countries, but there's not the gun violence in those countries that we have here. But I think what he's saying, I want to be careful because I really don't want to come off, I'm not defending this man at all, but it comes off to me like he's basically, part of why he did this was to basically put into spotlight, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. It's a totally warped mindset. Let me do something despicable, horrific, evil, so that I could get a point across. Again, I don't know if that's why he did it, but it sounds like through his writings that was part of it. But the point is, he's basically saying, I'm shooting up this bar, and you're not going to do anything. Nobody's going to do anything. Maybe he thought of himself in a sick way as a martyr. I just saw Boo Fry said that. Like he had to do this to get it out there that nothing's going to change in this country, but it's chilling to read that because, of course, he's mentally ill. Of course, he was deranged, but that was also a very cogent point he made. It is a cogent point. All you people do is thoughts and prayers. You don't actually take action. And that's from a man that just went into a bar and shot way more than 12 people, but killed 12 people. Dante Edmundo, he was also a Marine, makes you wonder what he experienced. Yeah, it does. So I want to play a clip from Ty. Ty, before he joined the Young Turks, before he joined me, he was with Brave New Films, which is a documentary company. And he did a documentary at Brave New Films on mass shootings. But this is one of the shorter videos he did there, so let me play it for you. So I think it's just a good thing to show you. And also, we need more funding because Ty could be doing documentaries for us, which could also be getting information out there and helping to create change in this country. So let's take a look.
Thank you. Cars, toys, and aspirin all have to meet mandatory safety standards before they become available to the public. In fact, nearly everything we use on a daily basis is regulated by the federal government for safety. But guess what isn't? Are you ready for this? Guns. Over 100,000 Americans are shot each year. And if that's you or someone that you love, there's no way to hold the people who made or sold those guns accountable. And you may be wondering, how did this happen? Two things, lobbying and money. The gun industry knows that their product is inherently dangerous, and they lobby Congress to hold them to different standards. Until the public speaks up, that will not change. Just ask the tobacco industry. In the 1950s, cigarette smoking was cool, cheap, and socially acceptable.
Light up the lucky.
It's light up time. I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it.
Smoke, smoke, smoke that cigarette.
Hey, that is fresh and clean.
I don't see why everybody doesn't smoke Raleigh.
More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Try them. You'll like them.
The taste is great.
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I don't believe that nicotine or our products are addictive.
Not addictive. Not addictive. Not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive. The babies born from women who smoke are smaller. And some women would prefer having smaller babies.
But that all changed when people started to fight back, demanding that cigarettes be regulated.
How many people tobacco kills every day?
Health officials say 50 years ago, about 40% of adults in America smoked. Of anti-smoking awareness campaigns and laws, and the numbers have dropped by more than half.
And it worked. Over the past 50 years, tobacco control in America has led to over 8 million fewer premature deaths. 8 million. That's the population of Virginia.
The tobacco industry tried and failed to stay out of the debate over cigarettes. For the gun manufacturers, it's the exact same tactic now that was used by the tobacco industry then.
Our goal is to try to raise at least $100,000 a year for the NRA because they're looking out for us in Congress.
When it comes to shielding the gun industry, the NRA is calling the tune.
We finally got both houses of Congress to pass the landmark Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act last year.
In 2005, the gun industry lobbied Congress to pass the law called PLCA. Now, this protects the gun industry from financial losses if someone is hurt or killed by a gun.
Wait. That kind of protection you're talking about wouldn't apply to a BB gun manufacturer, but it does to a gun manufacturer?
Today, even toy guns are held to higher standards than real guns. That's absurd.
It was just unbelievable to me that my son is gone and no one is held accountable.
For the first time ever, gun deaths have surpassed car deaths, making guns the deadliest product in America. U.S. is the leading developed country with the highest number of mass shootings in the world. This has to change. We did it with tobacco, and we can do it with guns. We need to demand that the federal government take action. Contact your legislators today and tell them to support the Equal Access to Justice for Victims of Gun Violence Act. Our lives depend on it.
So that was Ty when he wearing some fly wardrobe, and looks a little younger. This was before he was at the Young Turks, but great job. And I'd love to see him do some stuff like that for us. We just need funding to do those kinds of things. But I thought that was a really cool clip to show you, because it shows you, I mean, basically the gun lobby is basically doing what the tobacco lobby has done so successfully for many, many years. Where can I get that? I want to repost it. Of course, Ty would send me that clip, but not then send me where you could get that. I will find out where you could get that, and we will post it tomorrow. Sorry about that. I should have had it done today, but was rushing. But Ty also did a full. That's just one clip, but Ty also did a full documentary on guns, which I'm going to play a clip of that a little bit later. That clip is longer. I think it's about 20 minutes. So I was going to play that kind of towards the end of this live stream for you. But the point is, we can stop this. It's the same principle that I'm talking about with Nancy Pelosi, basically placating Trump and placating the Republicans and meeting them in the middle. There are way more Americans in this country that want an assault weapons ban, that want extended background checks. Frankly, I don't know why no one has pushed a policy to have psychologists at every single gun store, at every single gun show, to make it that you cannot buy a gun without a mental health evaluation. I haven't heard that in most places. So the bottom line is, we can stop this. We can stop this. Our politicians are stopping us from stopping it. Primarily the Republicans. I mean, let's call it what it is. Hold on, I gotta fix the screen here. Let's call it what it is. It's primarily the Republicans who are stopping this from happening. But the bottom line is, we can stop this. We need people. This needs to be a non-negotiable litmus test for any politician in this country running for office. If you accept any money from the NRA, if you do not call for an immediate assault weapons ban, if you do not call for laws that limit the size of magazines on guns, this shooter who just shot up 12 people dead in this bar, he had a Glock with an extended magazine. So it's not always a massive AR-15 that's doing this, but sometimes it's like handguns and Glocks with extended magazines, and the gun lobby and the NRA are pushing these accessories that make extended magazines and all these accessories to guns that make them even more likely to kill more people in less time. Cheryl says, yeah, in Canada we have a 6-week wait period for paperwork to buy a gun. But in America, fuck it. You're on a terrorist watch list, get a gun. You're mentally ill, Trump and the Republicans tried to roll back regulations on mental ill people getting guns. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So that was nice work by Ty. This is what he was at Brave New Films. Check out Brave New Films. They're a good documentary company. Jordan, would regulations matter more rather than laws? Would the Trumpsters? Laws matter. Laws matter. Taking the guns out of distribution. Every single military person that I've read said there's no reason for an AR-15 or a gun like it to be in citizen distribution. No reason at all. Period. So, that's what I think. So, I want to take a break from covering topics, and I want to give you a behind the scenes of what it's like being an independent media journalist. And I'm going to tell you the behind the scenes because I want you to see how hard Jen and I are working behind the scenes. And maybe that will help you feel good about your contributions to us and show you what we're doing here. Thank you, Maddie, $4.99. In the super chat. So grateful for your reporting. You're one of my heroes. You are my hero, Maddie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember, we're now $400 away from 20,000. I'd love to get to 20,000 by the end of this live stream. If we don't, we don't. But keep the contributions coming, either on the super chat or the GoFundMe. So, I want to tell you the behind the scenes, and we're gonna name names. We haven't named names until now, but I think it's time to name names. So, as you know, while I was at the Young Turks, and since I've left the Young Turks, I have covered the Flint water crisis quite a bit. And to me, this is not only a water contamination story. This is a story about privatization and cons and schemes against minorities to get white people rich. This is a story in Flint about corruption. This is a story in Flint about treating one community as if they're the shit under your shoe versus other upper middle class communities like actual human citizens. This is a story about greed. This is a story about racism. This is a story about climate change. This is a story about human rights and decency. Flint. I don't cover it only because I care about water, which I do care about water. I cover it because I care about people. And Jen cares about people. And sometimes Jen and I care so much that it takes away from our lives. Jen has 2 kids that she has sacrificed time with to work on this Flint story. I have sacrificed, quite a bit for my reporting in Flint. And we're not saying these things so you give us money or you give us thanks. We're saying this because you need to understand how the corporate media works. And we're going to show you how the corporate media works. So, in May, I was working on a story on Flint for a website called truthdig.com. And that story for truthdig.com was basically about how the science that has been used to declare the water safe in Flint was pretty suspicious. The story wasn't about anything scandalous. We weren't revealing corruption. It was basically showing how one scientist in particular that has been heralded in the media as the man who saved Flint, and that his science shows that the Flint water crisis is now a lot better and that the water is safe, was highly suspect. So while I was working on that story, sometimes when you're working on one story, you stumble upon really, really scandalous information that leads you to a much bigger story. So while I was working on that story, and Jen was helping me a little bit with that story, as I was working on that story, I was talking to a resident in Flint, and he told me that state of Michigan officials had come to his home and they had run his water and then collected the lead sample. I didn't really know that was a problem at the time. So I found out that it's actually against the EPA's regulations. It's called flushing. You are not allowed, if you're taking a water lead sample for EPA regulatory compliance, meaning if you're taking a water sample and to see what your lead levels are, in order to meet the EPA's regulations, so cities have to do this, states have to do this, they have to test the water and make sure the overall average for the city is below 15 parts per billion of lead. That's the limit. If you're above 15 parts per billion, then a lot of things are triggered in, and you have cities and states have to spend money to fix the problem. So we found out in his home that state officials were sent in and ran his water before testing. And the reason it's against EPA regulations to do that is because it gives time to flush out the lead. Well, if you're trying to get an accurate reading, if you're trying to get accurate data on what the lead situation is in Flint or anywhere else, why would you flush right before taking the test? Well, you would flush if you want to get an artificially low number and then declare problem solved. So we found this one resident. So on a hunch, I started asking a few more residents that I knew in Flint, hey, has your water been tested since the water crisis? Did state officials come over? And suddenly I find two more people that state officials came to their home randomly, flushed their water before taking samples, and took the sample and left. And they got test results back under the limit, low lead. Okay? So Jen and I, in the very, very heat of June and July, we spent out of our savings, we did not have a GoFundMe at that point, and we did not have a lot of money. We spent 2.5, almost 3 weeks in Flint, and we knocked on over 400 doors. Over 400 doors. Obviously, not everyone was home, and not everybody answered. So we spoke during that time to 140 residents in Flint. This is not easy work. We could have been at the beach. Jen could have been home with her kids enjoying the summer. I could have been doing things, but we did it for Flint and because we care about the truth. And lo and behold, the more doors we knocked on, we found out that they were, not only were state of Michigan environmental officials going into people's homes and illegally testing their water, meaning running their water, in some cases for 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, they were going in and flushing people's water lines in their sink, in their kitchen sink, in their bathroom sink. But the EPA then told us, oh, the state wasn't actually supposed to be doing the testing for residents. They were supposed to be dropping off the test kits at the residents' homes, and the residents were supposed to be doing the water sampling. So not only was the state going into people's homes and illegally running their water before collecting a lead water sample, which artificially lowers the lead levels. So oh, gee gosh golly, Jim, Flint's lead levels are back to normal. Yeah, because you flushed these people's lines. But the state wasn't supposed to be doing it in the first place. So obviously, Jen and I had a decision to make. We have enough here. We have more than enough of a data sample. We knocked on 400 doors. We've spoken with 140 residents. Not only do we have these residents on the record saying this happened, but we also have some paperwork from the residents that actually confirms their story. Not only did we find out that state officials had gone into residents' homes and illegally flushed their water, in a lot of cases, it wasn't the state official who flushed the lines. The state official verbally told the residents, run your water before you take the sample. So they were using residents as useful idiots to get lower lead levels in their water. You can't make this up. So first, the state poisoned Flint, and now they're cooking the data. This is cooking the data. That's what flushing is. So Jen and I had a decision to make. And Jen obviously isn't on camera, but she's in the live chat, so she could chime in. She's probably like on bits, sitting on pins and needles, doesn't want me to say something I shouldn't. And that's basically how she lives normally, making sure I don't put my foot in my mouth. But I believe in keeping it real. I believe in telling the audience. And this, by the way, what I'm telling you today is part of why we were kept on teasing this story and telling you it's coming and telling you it's coming, and then it didn't. Well, this is why. So we reached out to the Daily Beast first, the Daily Beast. The Daily Beast was super interested in the story. I met with them in person. They're super interested. Seems like all systems are a go. They asked me to do an outline for the story. On how it would look. I do the outline. They like the outline. Then a day later, all of a sudden, they get cold feet and say, we're asking for too much money for the story, which was kind of weird because in person, I just quoted them, whatever, like $1,000 for the piece. I didn't think that was a lot. And frankly, I told them, listen, if it's a matter of that, we'll do it for free. This isn't about money to us. This is about getting justice and the right information out to protect public health in Flint. But they moonwalked backwards and didn't want to do the story. So that's what happened with the Daily Beast. We don't know the real reason. We don't know if it's because of the story. We did have a lot of outlets literally say to us, is there a way to connect this to Trump? Is there a way to connect this to Trump? And Jen could tell you, I probably reached out to at least 100 outlets to try and get this published, big and small. We got responses like, is there a way to connect this to Trump? We got responses like, oh, we don't really have the bandwidth. We don't really have the bandwidth. Jordan has no pants on? I got pants on. Don't start rumors now. Saying we don't have the bandwidth to look into this. But all these outlets that didn't have the bandwidth to look into Flint and possible cooking of the data in Flint, they didn't have bandwidth to do that, but they did have bandwidth every single day to do more and more substanceless bullshit stories on Donald Trump. And we're not just talking about like Huffington Post and Daily Beast. We're talking about ProPublica, which is a very respectable, credible outlet. We're talking about some major outlets said, we don't have the bandwidth to do that. Yeah, they didn't have the bandwidth because they're doing one investigation into Donald Trump after the next. Because the media in this country think that the biggest threat to society and humanity is Donald Trump. And Flint, oh, well, that's too bad that that's still a problem. So first there was the Daily Beast. Then, I'm just keeping it real. Then Vice Media. Vice Media, we reached out with the story. They were totally gung-ho. About the story. I worked with an editor there for about 2 weeks to cut the story down because my original story was probably like 7,000 to 8,000 words. So to cut the story down, it was all systems go. The editor said, I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to put it in the editor-in-chief's hand. Jen, myself, Ty, book our tickets to Flint because we're told the story is going to be published on Vice News that week. We land in Flint, and 10 minutes after we land, I get an email from Vice saying to me that they apologize, but they were not aware of the details surrounding my firing from the Young Turks. No, I'm not making it up. They were not aware of the details surrounding my firing from the Young Turks. Obviously, you know the deal with that. Obviously, there was a false accusation made against me. I've already addressed it many times, so I'm not going to again. It's false. It's not true. It was never true. I would never do that. And there's nothing more to say about that. But they killed this story, this life or death story. And Jen and I our story is airtight, and the story is now published. We're going to get to that. The story is airtight. I think we have, Jen, put it in the live stream, but I think we have over 40 residents on the record, all majority on audio. So you don't have to take my word from it. We have all the interviews on the record. We knocked on 450 doors. Okay? We did what journalists are supposed to do, and that's knock on doors. And Vice Media says to me, we just decided to Google you 3 weeks after you pitched us the story. And we don't know if it's true or not, but, we just can't publish this. I'm not even going to get into what that did to me personally, because Jen could tell you I was very upset, because it's very, very upsetting when something that's false, and I've already been smeared, but it's very, very upsetting when you've been smeared and when you've been attacked for that to be, for something that's not true and something that is a lie, to be the reason that a corporate, and Vice is corporate, they try to pretend to be hipsters and progressives, they're not. For a corporate outlet to kill a story that they know is true because their corporation is spooked that a false accusation was made against me. So I'll tell you what we did. I said to Vice, then take my name off the story. Take my name off the story and print it under Jen's name. I was willing to do that. Of course, I want my reporting to be seen, and I want people to know I did it. But it's not about me. I want the truth out. I have sat with poisoned mothers on porches. I have watched poisoned kids try to recite the alphabet that they used to be able to recite all the way through, but they forget their letters after F because of the poisoning. I have seen a 1-year-old baby who just moved into Flint, 1 month after moving into Flint, into this home, have white blisters all over her legs, arms, and ears. I've seen all of this. I've sat with Flint residents who 1 minute they're cheery and happy, the next minute are volatile and their temper's through the roof, the next minute they're hysterical crying. That's what lead does. It could destroy your body, it could destroy your mind, it destroys your nervous system, it could give you cancer. So we offered, I didn't want to do this, but I was willing to because the story needed to get out. This, by the way, was in July. I said, then take my name off the story. If you, because of lies, and I sent them a lot of information to show that what they were referencing was not true, but they wouldn't do it, even without my name on the story and putting Jen. By the way, Jen was with me for all of this, the door knocking and the reporting. So it wouldn't have been lying to put her name on the story. She was a co-pilot for this. They wouldn't do it. So you got the Daily Beast, who backed out, who knows why. Probably because it wasn't Trump enough. And by the way, I met with the Daily Beast editor in person. I met with, I'm about to get to the next outlet in person. None of them knew a damn thing about Flint. None of them. None of them beyond like the obvious, like, oh yeah, when all the media covered it in 2016. None of these editors that I met with that are considered, top journalists in the country, have a lot of Twitter followers, sometimes get invited on TV. None of them had followed Flint. None of them had known it was still a problem. Jen could tell you, because she was in a meeting with me in New York with the next outlet I'm going to talk about. It was like explaining the story to a 5th grader. And I'm not telling you this behind the scenes, and I'm not telling you this, what happened, because I want to get it off my chest. I'm telling you for a very specific reason, which I'm going to get to. This isn't a pity party for me. It's not a pity party for Jen. I want you to understand why we're asking for your money. I want you to understand why we're launching Status Coup. And I want you to understand that I learned from this process and made a mistake in this process, which I'm going to get to. And we're not going to make it again. So Vice killed it, basically based off deciding to Google my name 3 weeks after I sent them the story, and they had already agreed to it, basically being spineless, and I guess because they're a corporation and there was risk associated with publishing with me. I don't really know. I don't know. It could have been this. Oh, well, by the way, I do know. The New York Times did an expose on Vice that exposed Vice as basically a pig farm of sexual harassment and worse. So, go figure. So then Jen started sending the story out. And we got a bite from Newsweek magazine. And frankly, Paul, so you've been blackballed in media? No. That's not at all. I'm about to tell you, no. So, Newsweek magazine was interested. And I'm not like a big fan of Newsweek. It's pretty corporate. But at the end of the day, it's a big outlet. Getting this story in a magazine would be huge for the people of Flint. And getting this story in Newsweek would be huge for Flint. It's a big outlet, whether it's corporate or not. So Newsweek's interested. The top editor at Newsweek we talked to, she was super into the story and basically told us, I think Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we first talked to her in August. So she basically was giving us a target date of publishing this online and then in the magazine for September. We made it clear from the beginning we want to get this story up before the Michigan governor's election because this is important information that voters need to know. In every situation, with Vice, with the Daily Beast, and then with Newsweek, I gave them all of our notes, all of our reporting, everything. They didn't question whether we had the facts right. So this top editor at Newsweek, for whatever reason, passed us off to a writer from Newsweek. She was a very nice person. Like, there was no problem with this writer at all. But if I'm keeping it real, she was pretty new to the journalism industry. She was relatively young. I think she was only working at Newsweek for 4 months, and I think she just got out of college a year ago. So this massive story, we were basically working through somebody right out of college. And Jen and I were very patient, and there's nothing bad about her. She's an intelligent person and all that, but she wasn't, she wasn't experienced enough in journalism to handle a story like this. She just wasn't. So we were passed from one editor to this person. Then a senior editor is brought in, and Jen and I met with this person in person. And it was very clear to me, he even said, I haven't been following Flint since 2016 when all the cameras were there. So I had to basically explain to him every corrupt thing that has happened since then. And basically, this shows you the corporate media and these journalists in the corporate media live in their own bubble. They don't focus or keep up with or follow up with or cover anything outside of their bubble. And their bubble is Donald Trump, Russia, the food fight, who's up or who's down in Washington, D.C., Trump's tweets, celebrity scandal, political scandal, and rinse and repeat. That's what they care about. So he didn't know anything about Flint. I had to, Jen, would you say, we met for a little over an hour, I would say 45 minutes of it, wasn't really talking about the story, it was explaining to him everything about Flint. So after that meeting, which was in September, still a green light to do this. They say, Jen worked very hard. She puts together this massive binder with all our notes and information and all these things to basically hand it to them like they're 5-year-olds so they could understand it. And by the way, the story is not that complicated. They ran the water before testing. That flushes out lead. It's illegal. They cooked the data. Not so complicated. Do you understand? So, literally, we are told, we're finally given the green light that it's going to go online. Let me look at the calendar here. It was supposed to go online November 1st, which was a Thursday. November 1st, which was a Thursday. I had rewritten the story God knows how many times. I had done additional reporting. We had 31 residents confirmed that had illegal flushing at their home. This story had Erin Brockovich on the record. This story had the EPA on the record confirming what we found. This story had toxicologists on the record. This story had plumbers on the record. This story had Flint Mayor Karen Weaver on the record. This story had Congressman Dan Kildee, who represents Flint in the United States House of Representatives. This story had State Senator Jim Ananich on the record. And it had a lot of residents on the record. Jen will put the link to the story in if you haven't read it yet. We were told Tuesday. The story's supposed to be published Thursday on Newsweek's website. Then it would be in the magazine the next week. This is why, if you're a Patreon and a viewer, we kept teasing, but then pulling back because the story kept getting killed. But we're told on Tuesday we're just doing final edits. You'll be able to see the story on Wednesday. Jen and I would be able to see the story on Wednesday, and then it's going up Thursday. Wednesday, we get an email. It's like breaking up with someone via email. We get an email that basically the story's too complicated to explain and we don't have enough data. And you know what? A lot of people wouldn't do this. A lot of people in journalism wouldn't do this. A lot of people are afraid of burning bridges. A lot of people are afraid of, coming off in bad form. I don't give a fuck, because I don't want to have any bridges with these people. So I'm going to show you that email. You want to see the email they sent? And I could go line by line. And again, this behind the scenes of what happened is for a purpose. We're going to tell you the purpose. Thank you, Gene, for the $9.99. Hey, Jordan, I hope you can get down to Florida. The Dems are attacking Canova for wanting to investigate election fraud, even some progressives who campaign for Gillum. Thank you, Gene. Keeping it real, we don't have the funding right now to go down to Florida. That's why we're doing this Sunday Super Chat, to get more funding. So we need you to make it happy. Thank you, Natural Progressive, $5. I have been calling Tim Canova. I'm trying to cover it from here. You need to look into the Utah tribe lawsuit. Has to do with mining and Black Lives Matter, claiming the reservation no longer exists. BLM, I don't know if that's Black Lives Matter. Email it to me, Natural Progressive. Email Jordan at Proton Mail. So I'm going to show you this email because I want you to see why we need independent media and why we need status quo and why we need funding. I've seen a lot of bad shit, stupid people. I've worked at Fox News. I've worked at MSNBC. I've worked for digital sites. They're run by elitist, smug, arrogant idiots. But this topped the cake. And I already told you, Vice killed the story, not because there was a problem with the story, but because they're spineless, because they Googled my name and saw that I was fired from the Young Turks, obviously saw an accusation against me that was false. I sent them a lot of information to show it was not true. And then I said, take my name off the story. It could be from Jen. And I won't say a word that I was even involved. They wouldn't do it. But here's the email. And thank you, Frank, for the $20 donation just now on GoFundMe. Here's the email from Newsweek. And I redacted the guy's email so you don't harass him. By the way, we were working with Newsweek for months on this story, and they had such the courtesy not to call us, but to email us. When our flight is the next day, Ty, me, Jen, that's expensive to send 3 people out to report. Flights, Airbnb, rent a car, food. Hi, Jordan and Jen. I know you've been wondering about the Flint story, but after much consideration here, we've made a decision to pass. I just want to remind you, we were told the night before that, so like less than a day before that they're just working on the final edits. They're just working on the final edits, and it's going to go up Thursday. Here we go. While I know it's little comfort after all the back and forth, we did not come to this decision easily. Alexandra and I attempted no fewer than 2 versions of the story, and the same issue kept arising. We don't have enough data and hard evidence to challenge the state's declaration and its explanation in a digestible and unimpeachable way. So before I read any more, I want to address that. So, I took 2 journalism classes, right? So the first thing you're told in journalism class, and I'm sorry to my Facebook peeps that you can't see the email or the screenshot, so, reading it we'll have to do. Well, you know what they tell you in Journalism 101, if you took it? Go knock on doors. So this idiot, an asshole, just keep it real. I didn't like him when I met him, and I don't like him now. This guy says, knocking on 400 doors, talking to 140 residents, having 40 homeowners on the record. 40 homeowners on the record is not enough data. Having the EPA on the record saying the testing that you found is in breach of our regulations. It's the EPA said that to us. You think the Flint mayor would go on the record if we didn't have something? You think a congressman wouldn't go on the record if we don't? So he says, we don't have enough data. Well, what do you want us, did you need us to knock on 40,000 doors? Because that's how many homes there are in Flint? I mean, we got 4 legs between the 2 of us, but not that much money to permanently stay out in Flint and do that. So that was bullshit. The data was more than there. And it's not like we're talking about 5 or 6 residents that maybe there's just some mix-up here. You're talking about dozens of residents, and you're talking about, if you talk to 140 residents and 40 but 31 of them are on the official state program. The homes we found were on something called the Sentinel program. The Sentinel program were homes that the state of Michigan chose to be tested repeatedly over the course of 2 years. And looking at those homes and how their lead levels were faring, hopefully going from high to low, then you could average out the city of Flint and declare we are now meeting the EPA's regulation for lead of 15 parts per billion. These were the homes on the Sentinel program that the state of Michigan used in all their press releases and all their declarations to say Flint is now back to normal, or as Governor Snyder said, restored. So Newsweek says 140 residents we spoke to, 31 on the record, 40 on the record. That's not enough data. Not enough data. And I love this. It's and explain it in a digestible and unimpeachable way. So basically, and I'm not being salty and I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying, basically, because you and Newsweek are too incompetent to explain this reporting, you're going to basically suppress life or death information. Life or death information you're going to suppress. Because you're all incompetent? What is so complicated to explain? The EPA has a regulation called the lead and copper rule. The lead and copper rule says to test water for lead, the water can't be used for 6 hours. So can't use your water for 6 hours anywhere in the house. And then after that, you take the sample, you turn the tap on, you put the sample bottle in right away. It's called first draw, right away. You don't let the water run even for 10 seconds. You put the sample bottle in right under. Are you guys confused by that? Is that tough for you to digest? Is it tough for you to digest that we knocked on 400 doors, spoke with 100, at this point we've spoken with 150 residents, and 35 now, because when we ended up going this past week, we knocked on more doors, in the pouring rain, by the way, and found even more homes. Is it complicated for you that when you run the water, even for 30 seconds, you could be flushing out high qualities of lead? Is it complicated that in layman terms, we found that the state of Michigan cooked the books, cooked the data? Yes, Chelsea Clinton is on the board of directors at the Daily Beast. So basically, this guy falsely said we didn't have enough data. Of course we had enough data. When you have dozens and dozens of residents all saying, yeah, officials came into my home and ran my water. Or, because not all of them said that, some of them had officials come into their home and run their water. Some of them had officials just verbally say, run your water for 5 minutes before you take the sample. Thank you, Gene. Just upgraded my membership for Status Coup on Patreon. Everyone on this feed needs to do the same. I agree. Patreon.com/Status Coup. We are building out our membership section on our site. It doesn't exist yet on our site, but that's coming. It's coming. But right now you can become a Patreon. I think you can do it as low as $1 a month. So thank you. But I'm not finished. This is going to get much better. Oh, and Jen, it's making me happy getting this off my chest. But we're getting to a point. So first he says, we don't have enough data. Yes, we did. And then he says, essentially, we're too incompetent to explain it in a digestible way. I don't think they'd be too incompetent to explain it in a digestible way if Donald Trump was involved in the story. I think they'd figure out a way, don't you? But this is the line that honestly, my blood is still boiling. He says, the old adage in politics applies here. If you're explaining, you're losing. The old adage in politics applies here. If you're explaining, you're losing. Basically, what this editor at Newsweek just told us is journalism, it's not a place where we have to explain things. If you have to explain a story, then it's not worth doing. Well, you know what? You know what was kind of a complicated story? If you actually look at history, you know what was complicated? There was a story called Watergate that involved a lot of scandal and a lot of cover-up and a lot of moving parts. I don't think they lost breaking that story, do you? So he's saying, as in politics, when you're explaining, you're losing. Is the Newsweek magazine reader on a third grade reading level? I'm not going to show you in this video my response email to them, but Jen could tell you I had a fucking field day. And I made the point, this isn't politics, this is journalism. And in journalism, sometimes you do have to explain things. And if you're a good editor or reporter, you could explain things. But unfortunately, in our media, we don't have, Newsweek isn't there to inform the audience, and they're not there to protect the public. They're not there to protect the people of Flint. They're not there to protect the people of America. They are there to get clicks, to drive scandal, to drive conflict, and to basically create daily hot air balloons. And I'm fucking fed up. And you want to know something? I'm going to read you more of the email. But in business, as in life, you also have to acknowledge, good to see you're making friends, Jordan. I'm making a lot of them. You got to acknowledge when you made a mistake and not make them again. So the mistake I made, it was for the right reasons, was to actually believe that I could get truth, real truth, very risky truth. This is a risky story to tell. That I could get that published in a corporate media outlet. Because it wasn't only this. There were forces trying to get the story killed. Jen and I know for a fact that there were certain state officials, certain state officials and unofficial state officials, meaning not official state officials, but people, let's just say, on the payroll unofficially of the state of Michigan, that were reaching out to these media outlets trying to get them to not print the story. And these outlets folded like a cheap suit. So I responded to this guy. I'm not going to show you the response right now. I responded, so you're telling me, and you're telling Jen, that you, Newsweek, are going to willingly suppress the fact that Michigan officials under this governor, Rick Snyder, you know, the governor who knew nothing about the lead problem in Flint, nobody told me, has had no criminal liability, that his environmental agency intentionally went into homes, intentionally flushed out their water lines and the lead that was probably in them, intentionally violated black and white protocols, and most importantly, you're going to suppress this while lots of people in Flint drink from their taps because the state told them the water is safe again. There are people, as we speak, that might be drinking that water because they're too poor to go buy bottled water, or they're too poor to go sit online for 5 hours at a church, which is what people are doing. 3 to 5 hours they're having to wait. And they're drinking from their tap, and they're letting their kids drink from that tap because the state of Michigan provided cooked data. And you're telling me that you are not going to print that because you have to explain it a little bit? Or because there's not enough data, even though we have dozens on the record that this happened, even though we have paperwork that shows this happened? We had paperwork in one home in particular that showed the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality went into a home, flushed her water for 2 to 3 minutes. The result was 2 parts per billion of lead. 2 parts per billion is considered low. 15 parts per billion is the EPA level where actions need to be taken. 2 parts per billion because they flushed her water for 2 minutes. The EPA went into her home, that homeowner, 2 months later. They tested the same kitchen sink. They didn't flush. They found 85 parts per billion. 2 parts per billion, 85 parts per billion. One was flushed, one wasn't. We had the paperwork of both the state's testing and the EPA's testing. Not enough data. Too complicated to explain. I'm not dramatizing. I'm not going off the handle for clicks or for money. I'm telling you what I believe. Newsweek magazine and these other magazines are accomplices to the state's environmental genocide. I don't care if I'm burning bridges right now because I don't want to be on a bridge with these idiots. I don't want to be on a bridge with public relations professionals masquerading as journalists. I don't want to be on a bridge or have anything to do with PR people for the government. I don't want to be on a bridge with stenographers. And these outlets knowingly are suppressing life or death information because it doesn't involve Trump or they don't have the bandwidth. So next time I'm in Flint, I'll tell those residents, hey, you don't have bottled water at your house, or you got blisters and rashes going on, or you got hair loss, or you're throwing up blood, or you got cancer out of nowhere with no family history. I'll let them know that you just didn't have the bandwidth to look into it. Or, you just couldn't explain it. When media outlets around this country report thousands of other cities have higher lead levels than Flint, you know what they're basing it on? They're basing it on the lead numbers that the state of Michigan is providing to the public. The very lead numbers that Jen and I, through old school journalism and knocking on doors, found was cooked. I don't know if all of it was cooked, but I do know we knocked on 450 doors so far. We've spoken with 150 residents so far. We found 35 homes, at least 35 homes where this happened. Majority of people, when we knocked, were not home or didn't let us in. So when the media and other people say, well, other cities have higher lead levels. Erin Brockovich made the point in the story. Others made it. How do you know what the real lead levels are currently in Flint if the testing was manipulated? I will read it to you. Here we go. Legendary environmental and consumer advocate Erin Brockovich didn't hesitate when informed of Status Quo's investigation and findings. The only reason, quote, the only reason to do this would be to obtain a clear sample and report false information, she said, calling for criminal prosecution of officials that improperly flushed water before sampling. She also demanded citywide retesting to begin and for the reopening of the free water pods the governor closed down. Quote, falsifying a federal and state regulatory compliance test, that is a crime, she said. Brockovich also noted that in light of these falsified tests, it's not possible, as has been done by many media outlets, to claim thousands of other cities have higher water lead levels than Flint, since Flint's real water lead levels are now in question. This is super important that you understand this, and it's super important you get this information out. When the media and other people try to diminish what's going on in Flint and say, oh, things are better, how do you compare other cities to Flint when the data and the testing in Flint was manipulated? Jen and I, do you know that Jen and I, knocking on more doors this time, after Newsweek killed the story, we already had our flights booked. We already had our Airbnb booked. We already had a lot of things booked, so we went. And we didn't sit there and feel sorry for ourselves. We knocked on more doors. We knocked on 50 doors in 2 days. And one of those days was torrential downpours, and we said, fuck it. And Jen was not feeling well, and she was a trooper and pushed through anyway. And we found one home. They're literally testing homes on the official state testing program that have full water filtration systems. Not a water filter in their tap like a full water filtration system that goes all throughout their house. Yeah, no shit, you're going to find no lead. So they're testing homes, they're flushing the water, they're telling residents to flush the water, they're testing homes that are, literally there are homes on the state test that are abandoned. We haven't been able to look into all of them, but there are homes that they're on our list to go check, they're abandoned, and we see that they're on the official state test. Well, who tested them? The ghost inside the abandoned home? This is an environmental... Bob K. Jordan, be careful. You're pushing buttons they don't want you to push. I know. That's why if you notice sometimes I kind of go dark for 2 weeks and I don't say where I am, I don't say what I'm doing. This is why. So I can protect myself, not draw a huge, much attention to myself. It's not really good in terms of starting a business and trying to get video views and trying to grow subscribers and trying to bring in money for a company if you go dark for 2 to 3 weeks. But I'm doing this because I believe in real reporting. I believe as my activism and Jen's activism, I don't want to speak for Jen, but I believe this. Our activism is journalism. This is what I do to be active. This is what I do to create change. I want to help in whatever way I can to deliver the truth, to deliver justice for downtrodden and screwed communities. I don't care if they're black, white, brown, purple. So we have found... I know that we all have ADD and nobody likes to read long stories. I really hope you read this full story. Jen has been putting it in the super chat. There's a story. You got to read this story. We found evidence that they basically just cooked up the data. They flushed the lines. Now, if they tested the right way, could Flint's lead levels have improved? Could they have improved? They could. Who knows? They might. But we don't know. We don't know. Because we have a plumber on the record, even if you flush the water, even if you run the water for 30 seconds, you could be flushing out all of the lead in the interior plumbing. A lot of these homes are old and they have lead in the actual fixtures inside the home. That's why it's against the EPA's regulation to do it, because you're getting an artificial fake number. Erin Brockovich also said, flushing right before a first draw sample is a violation. The entire purpose of testing the first draw is to detect how much lead and copper have leached into the water overnight. Once it is flushed out, it defeats the purpose of a test. Flushing is cheating. She added that, based on our findings, all of the state's Flint water testing should be tossed out. Quote, the sample set is representative of at least some not testing properly, and therefore the entire sample set should be invalidated. Without ensuring proper training and compliance, one must assume all of the samples are valid. And so we moved this away for a minute from science. Thank you, Bob, for the $5 in the super chat. So we moved this away for a minute from science. I want to put faces to this scandal. In addition, there's stories for every homeowner we have on the record. There's one woman, she's 35, lived in Flint all her life, never had a health problem in her life. I mean, she went to the doctor if she had a cold or things like that. Never had a health problem in her life. Like a lot of people in Flint, when the water was switched in 2014, a lot of them didn't even know it was switched. She was drinking the water from the tap. Then, about 6 months later, I think, she starts having really bad migraines, heart palpitations. What else was she having? Heart palpitations, migraines, all these things. And she gets diagnosed with a thyroid problem. Then soon around that time, they find spots on her kidney. Then she is diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Well, a state of Michigan environmental official went into her home, said, I'm here to test your water and we want you to be on this program, the official state program I told you about, the Sentinel program. And, is that okay? She says, okay. Yeah, most homeowners, if you're just happy, like, oh, they're here, they're doing something, they're going to check the water, that's great. She multiple times has said to me, they ran her water from like anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. Then they put in the sample bottle to collect it, and on the way out, because part of this, the residents were supposed to be the ones doing it, so he wasn't even supposed to be testing her water. That was improper because the EPA was on the record in our story telling us that. The state was supposed to drop off the test kits for the residents to do it. So right there, number one was wrong, incorrect to do it that way. Flushing her water, illegal. Then, to top it off, the guy says, you're going to do it exactly like I did it. So Amanda, when she took the samples, she did 2 more samples herself. She ran the water for several minutes. And a lot of residents we met that are in that story, they ran the water before testing because that's what the state environmental officials told them to do. Knowingly told them to do it the wrong way because they were cheating and trying to get lowered lead levels to sweep this under the rug because they don't give a fuck about Flint or cities like it. And let me be clear. It's not just about Flint. This kind of stuff is happening all over the United Corporations of America. I want you to show what they did to this poor girl. Here we go.
I kept asking him about it, and I was like, I really need this for my doctor, and nothing.
In light of our reporting, which, by the way, we found at least 31 homes this happened in, where 17 of those 31 homes, officials came in and ran the water and took the samples themselves. 14 others told us that the officials told them to do it, so they flushed. And you had both. You had they did it, and they told you to do it. But what do you think now? Are you kind of thinking that who knows how you originally got sick, but are you worried that you drank that water much longer and you don't know what the actual lead levels were here?
I mean, I don't want to cry, but it's like I let my kids drink it, and I drank it, my husband drank it. I don't mean to cry, but I don't know. Could I have not have gotten sick if I did it the right way, if I had just paid for the sink myself, or I don't know.
And let's not sugarcoat it. It's kind of like you can't work anymore. You've been basically housebound, and you recently, welcome to America, they kicked you off your health insurance because your husband makes too much. So right now you're not really getting treatment because you can't afford it.
Can't afford nothing. I can afford to pay my water bills. They don't come shut us off. I can pay for groceries and our car that we need to get back and forth to work, but I can't. It's not, the healthcare system just sucks. I could leave my husband and get healthcare, but I couldn't. They're gonna do it.
And what's really, the bottom line is, a lot of residents have actually said when they've gone to doctors, whether in Flint or surrounding areas, the doctors kind of, I don't want to say poo-pooed it, but basically said, well, we don't know if that's because of the lead, and didn't always draw cause and effect between the lead that residents consumed and issues. But going around, literally we couldn't go a block or two without somebody that, couple homes where somebody just died, not always old people, people in their 40s and their 50s. We couldn't go, there were a lot of homes, there were a lot of blocks where, you had 40-year-olds, 30-year-old women or people with cancers, autoimmune issues, this and that. And it's not like you're getting Medicare for all. It's not like you're getting, money came from Congress for Flint, but where is it really going? Because you have residents like you who are sick, and you're basically, because your husband technically makes too much, what do you have, a $13,000 deductible you have to meet?
$13,000 deductible I have to meet before the insurance will pick up anything. I have health care, so I don't get penalized, but I don't have health care that I can actually use.
So basically right now, you're kind of think you're in remission, but because you can't get blood work,
I just stopped going to treatment, stopped going to doctors. I'm just kind of you're stuck in limbo. You don't know what's wrong with you. I'm still really tired. Some days I'm tired to where I can't do nothing. probably be like Sleeping Beauty, just sleeping all day. And then other days I'll be like, oh, I'm full of energy, I got this, I can do it today. And then other days back to like, oh, I'm so sick, I can't eat nothing, I can't, you know.
And you're you got 3 kids, and your husband has had to take extra shifts and extra work because you can't work.
Yeah, he found a better job at the beginning of this year. He went back to an old job to be kitchen manager where he makes more money to be able to, where I don't have to work. So
Basically, but you are working. You have 3 kids, so like while you're sick, you have to basically while he's at work.
While he's at work, I'm taking care of them, taking them to and from school, and make sure their homework's done. Like, I was always at home mom, but I had like a side job that I would do to bring in some sort of money, but I can't really do that.
And when you see the governor in April, he's saying, well, our data shows that the water levels are now, quote, restored. He shut down the water pods that I believe you and other residents were depending on. Do you have time to go sit in line at a church for 3 to 5 hours for, I think they're giving like 2 or 3 cases of water?
No, I couldn't sit in the line for 3 to 5 hours the way I felt. Like when they shut down the pods, my uncle had made sure like we got a few cases of water, but you know, you got 3 kids and a husband and you drinking the bottled water. I couldn't. My brother sat in that line and he ran out of gas.
I played that a little bit longer so you could really see the victims of this. Make no mistake about it, folks. I want to be clear. I'm not a doctor. Jen's not a doctor.
To federal office, by the way. We'll get into more about what they got done compared to the Green Party and other third parties. The Green Party has had 0. I
want to be clear. I'm not a doctor. Jen's not a doctor. So I don't know what caused her cancer. We can't definitively say cause and effect. The state officials illegally tested her water, then told her there was no lead in her water, so she went back to drinking the water and she got cancer. I can't say that because I don't know, and that would be irresponsible of me. So I'm not drawing cause and effect. If you read the story, we do have a toxicologist on the record talking about some of the contaminants in Flint's water that could have affected her thyroid, that could have affected her kidney, but I don't want to do that, so I'm not. Can't say for sure what caused what. But what I can tell you, she's 35. Before 2014 and that water switch, she never had a major medical issue. She never had a major medical issue. Doctor once in a blue moon if you get a cold. Very quickly after drinking this water for over a year, she got thyroid problems, thyroid cancer, and spots on her kidney that, by the way, they haven't even biopsied her kidney yet to find out if those spots are cancer because her immune system is too weak. So they're not biopsying it yet. And separate story, our fucking healthcare system that Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to fight for Medicare for all because she's bought off by the donors. Our healthcare system, she literally has cancer and doesn't even know if she's in remission because she can't use her healthcare because she has a $13,000 deductible. So she might very well have cancer in her system still and it's not in remission, but she doesn't know because she hasn't gone back to the doctor. She hasn't gotten the blood work. And to be clear, a state of Michigan official both went into her home, flushed her water for over a minute before collecting the sample, which is illegal. It could have flushed the lead out of there. It could have artificially lowered the lead levels so that she was told, and her kids, she's got 3 kids, were told there's no lead in your house, and she went back to drinking that water, and she went back to letting her kids drink that water because the state of Michigan, who's supposed to protect her and the residents, told her it was okay to do it after cooking the data. And by the way, they instructed her to do it the same way, to run the water. But for Newsweek magazine and for Vice and for Daily Beast, just too hard to explain that. Not enough data. 35 homeowners. Not enough data. 35 homeowners. Not enough data knocking on 450 doors. I don't know why they didn't publish it. I know why Vice says they didn't publish it, which I think is BS. Because they're cowards and they're spineless and they don't care As media, they don't think their position and their role is getting truth out there to protect the vulnerable, to protect the public against the corrupt, to protect the public against the powerful, to correct the public against career bureaucrats, to protect the public against sociopaths who would sooner continue to poison people than to risk losing their jobs. That's the role of journalism, and we don't have it in this country. That's why Jen and I have launched this. That's why I'm sitting here on a Sunday for 2.5 hours. Frankly, let's not sugarcoat it. Begging for funding. Because I'm not going to corporations for funding. I'm not going to Democratic Party or Republican Party plutocrats that fund all the special interests and asking them for money. And I'm not going to certain individuals or corporations that don't align with our values. So we're doing it the hard way, but we're doing it the right way. And we know that most of you are living paycheck to paycheck. We know that most of you don't even have the $5 we're asking for, or the $10. If you don't, that's okay. But what you can do is you could share this. You could share the GoFundMe. You could tell your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We go live every day, 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. You could become a Patreon at patreon.com/statuscoup. You could do it as low as $1 a month. Obviously, we'd love you to do higher, because this is our life. This is our life. This is how we make money. This is how Jen feeds her kids. This is how I pay my rent. I can pay my now $5,000 dental bill. If you were following earlier in the live stream, we wanted to get to 20,000 by the end of today. I don't think it's going to happen, as you can see on the screen. But sometimes you fall short, but you don't stop. We're at 19,618. It would be wonderful to get to 20,000 by the end of the weekend. That was our goal. The rest of our goal is to get to 25,000 by the end of November. And the overall goal is 50,000. So, obviously within a major goal, there's mini goals. So we're hoping to get 20,000 by the end of today. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But we appreciate 289 people have contributed. As important as the financial amount, it's equally important that we get the numbers up as far as the amount of people contributing, because when we do go for funding, and we are looking at different funding models and funding sources and a lot of different things, we want to be able to show the people that we would be reaching out to for funding, hey, look at this base of support we have. We have contributions from 289 people. We have almost 400 paid subscribers via Patreon. We have almost 22,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we've only had the channel up for 8 months, despite a lot of suppression. The more this army grows, we don't want to just talk to each other. We want to grow the base. We want to grow our audience. We want to grow our support. We want to grow our paid subscribers. We know that each one of you have monthly things, from childcare to medication, to groceries, to whatever. We're just hoping you could throw us in that budget, even if it's at $5 a month, even if it's at $3, whatever it is. We're hoping you could add us, because the bottom line is, real reporting, the reason most of these outlets don't do it, besides the fact that their parent companies won't let them, it's expensive. It is. Somebody asked, can you go down to Florida? No, I cannot, because we don't have the money to do it right now. So we have to pick the trips we do take. Very carefully, basically, because a trip between Ty and I, and flights and all these things, it could take quite a few dollars. So that's the deal. That's the deal, folks. I wanted you to know the behind the scenes of what happened with this story, why it was delayed. The story is up. We have had some success with the story. We have had 2 United States congressmen respond to it and call for an investigation. That would be Congressman Ro Khanna. That would be Congressman Tulsi Gabbard. We have it in other congresspeople's hands. If you live in Maryland, get on the phone and call Elijah Cummings and ask him why he hasn't said anything about this. We've been trying to get Congressman Elijah Cummings, who presided in the congressional hearings over Rick Snyder, over the Flint water crisis. It was him and Jason Chaffetz. Cummings was the ranking member for the Democrats. My assumption is he hasn't seen the story and his press secretary hasn't showed it to him. Who knows? But We want him to get this on his radar and for him to speak up. We want Dan Kildee, who's a representative from Flint. He's a congressman and he represents Flint. He has not publicly responded to the story. I'm not even going to bother with Nancy Pelosi because I know that's not going to happen. We would love Bernie Sanders on the record here. We would love Keith Ellison, Raul Grijalva, progressives. We cannot forget Flint. And a lot of you ask and say, Jordan, there's other places with water, too much with Flint. First of all, if you follow the channel, despite our funding isn't there to go and travel everywhere, I cover a lot of other cities with water problems. Click on playlists. So on the homepage of this YouTube channel, click on the playlist. There's a playlist for water contamination. I've covered a hell of a lot of other places than Flint. I would love to go to Detroit. I would love to go to Florida. I would love to go to California. There's a lot of places with water contamination. But the reason I'm staying on Flint and Jen's staying on Flint is Flint is not just about Flint. Flint is not just about a city in Michigan. Flint is about this country and this world. And this is the playbook. If you take the camera off Flint, if you take the attention off Flint, then you normalize what happened there. You normalize the poisoning of American citizens. You normalize the cooking of the data after the fact to pretend that the problem is gone. And that allows public officials to follow the exact same playbook in other communities. So, we've been live for 2.5 hours. I'm gonna close up the shop soon. I want to wrap with a few Q&A. As a reminder to the people who have contributed today, we're going to offer to people who contribute to the GoFundMe today. Anyone who contributes to the GoFundMe today will be invited to a call with me and Jen this week. So anybody that contributes today and to our until we hit $20,000. So definitely consider it. No amount is too small. You'll be invited to our call, and that'll be this week. And we really appreciate it. So if anybody has questions, comments, concerns, I am looking at the live chat right now, and feel free to leave funding in the super chat too. Although we definitely are interested in growing the GoFundMe, but I'm not going to say no to super chat either. So, may I ask, is there not one corporation or in a nation that is not corrupt? Ben & Jerry's, I don't think, is corrupt. Other than that, no. Trudy, focusing on Flint makes others feel safe when they are not. I don't think so. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. If you follow the channel, I cover so many other cities. If people are paying attention, they'll know nowhere right now is safe. So I don't really buy that argument. Flint is the canary in the polluted USA water contamination scandal. They are culling poor people. Yeah, I think this is part of a mass gentrification and cleansing of minorities and poor people out of these communities. Paul, so seek Ben & Jerry's sponsorship. We have thought of that. We definitely have thought of that. Saris, Jordan, please tell me if you believe we could fix such issues by replacing politicians with fluid democracy. Define fluid democracy. I'm not being sarcastic. I don't know what that. I've never heard that term. So you'd have to explain it to me. Bob, do you super chat every Sunday? You know what, Bob? Jen and I talked about this earlier. I definitely enjoy my weekends and need time off, but for the time being, we are going to be super chatting every single Sunday. Yes. We got to grow the funding for Status Coup. We need to grow the YouTube channel. We need to grow the GoFundMe. We need to grow paid members, so I will be live every Sunday. I haven't determined the time yet, but 5 o'clock I think is a good time in general for most people. It gives you time during the day to do what you want to do, and then join in Sundays. So yes, I will be live. I shouldn't say every Sunday because I am going on vacation December 1st, a long delayed vacation. So I'll be gone December 1st for about 8 to 9 days. But other than that, yes, I'm going to be live every Sunday. So next Sunday, the 18th, I'll be live here on YouTube. No, focusing on Flint should make anyone question their towns. I agree. Paul, you are a wise owl, Jordan. Why, thank you. I guess an owl is a good thing to be. They are still counting votes in the Senate race here in Arizona. Yes, Cinema, I believe, is up a little bit, but I'm sure the Republicans are trying to steal that too. Lots of alt media channels have been getting large. Can you try to ask JDS or someone else for an interview or something to get more coverage? I don't know who JDS. Oh, Jimmy Dore Show. Yes. I've spoken with Jimmy about this story. And I believe Jamarl Thomas has covered this story. I believe the Ring of Fire has covered this story. I think the Humanist Report might be covering it this week. I would love to see Kyle Kalinske cover it. I would love to see Jimmy cover it. I would go on any show. Jen would go on any show. I'll go on any show. We'll send them the information, whatever. We would love to cover this. And honestly, I mean, I'm going to keep it real. I'm not naming names, but I will say, I think even independent media channels sometimes are ignoring these critical stories to do just 25 videos about Trump every day. I think sometimes, even independent media gets in a bit of a bubble. Thank you, Patrick, for $69 on the GoFundMe, which brings us to 19,006. Oh, it didn't reload yet. 19,600. I don't know what it is at now, but there's a lot of independent media channels that frankly cover Trump and bullshit and stupid stuff said on Twitter. And I think, obviously these independent media channels don't have the funding themselves to go out and do reporting. And obviously most of these folks aren't reporters, they're commentators, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love Kyle, I love Jimmy, I love the Humanist Report, I love Jamarl Thomas, there's some others. So I'm not knocking them, but it would be nice to see some more people diversifying, because I do think there's way too much Trump. Yes, it's important to bash the Democratic Party and expose their hypocrisy, spinelessness, and corruption, but part of the reason you got Trump in the first place is because these stories are being ignored. It's not just Flint. There's the Standing Rocks, there's the East Chicagos, there's the Alabamas. There's so many communities where corruption and environmental scandal and gentrification and attacks on minimum wage and attacks on Native Americans, attacks on black people, Latinos, I could go on and on, climate change, and you're not seeing this. I mean, I honestly don't really every single day go to each channel and see what videos they're doing, but in general, when I do surf around, even the people I like are doing a lot of Trump and are doing a lot of bashing Republicans. And honestly, it's because a lot of us like consuming that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Trump should be bashed. The Democrats should be bashed. I would just love to see a little more variety, because Flint needs more coverage and the other stories need more coverage. And let me tell you something. Jen is working overtime to try and grow this business and dealing with me bitching daily about money. Because I do, I get, that's one thing I get anxious about, which is money. Invictus, do you agree with Chris Hedges? On most things I do. I don't know in specific what you're talking about, what you're asking me, as far as what I agree with. But to tell you the truth, a lot of you are talking about alternative media. Frankly, I think one of the issues with alternative media and independent media is we're all on our little islands, separate, when we all should be coming together, both in financial partnerships, in together on platforms, so we can have our own individual personalities, our own individual businesses. But I think there's strength in numbers. And I spoke with one person who's an engineer. I said, you know what would really be successful? How about creating a YouTube for progressives? How about creating a YouTube for progressive media? That's do a flat $5 a month membership fee, and you could get whatever you want. Jimmy Dore, Kyle, Humanist Report, Jamarl Thomas, Lee Camp, you name it. People pay a flat fee. You could have super chats too, so people make more money, but we control the algorithms, so there's no suppression. There's no suppression. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's more difficult than I know. I'm not a tech wizard. But I think too many independent media outlets are separate. And some of it involves egos. I'm not getting into anybody in particular. But bottom line is we need to come together, because I think we don't have to agree on every topic. I don't think Jimmy and Kyle Kalinske agree on every topic. I don't agree with every topic of all, But the bottom line is, we all are individually are growing audiences and growing movements and growing public information movements, and people desperately want this information. but we're doing it separate. And I think there would be a great way, it would be great to come together. Because let me tell you something. Imagine for a second. Oof, I'm not going to say this. Imagine for a second if certain commentators who people are dying for, love, like it's appointment internet for them, for certain commentators. Imagine for a second if those commentators, they were doing the commentary and the raging and all that mixed with really, really authentic, aggressive, citizen journalism, reporting for the people. Imagine merging those two things. That's one powerful force, not only for society and information, but you could also make a hell of a business out of that. I'm not going to get into names because I don't want to create a whole speculative thing, but I think would be very good. Jordan, fluid democracy is petitioning that overpowers governor, legislatures, and all of the politicians, and puts what in their place? Oh, so basically, like the people can overrule the government if they don't like certain laws that pass. Ceres? Yeah, I believe in that. Absolutely. Because I believe in this thing called, one person, one vote, and representative government. So if the government is passing laws that aren't in popular support and aren't of the popular majority and aren't in sync with what the majority wants, yeah, the people should be able to overturn it. So I believe in that. Yes. I just never heard the term. And by the way, some of you in the live chat, like I see some people being like, why aren't you answering me? It's not because I'm ignoring you. I don't see every comment or chat because it's going so fast. Adam, Jordan, I think you did a video yesterday on this. Do you really believe that Gillum lost his race due to progressive falling out? I don't believe so. Yes, I do. I mean, I showed you the numbers. He was up by 12 points. A poll was taken between October 16th and October 20th. He was up 12 points. October 21st was the CNN debate. Most state races don't get a national television exposure. He got national television exposure. I would assume that was highly rated in the state of Florida too, that debate on CNN. If you watch that debate, do I think he's better than DeSantis? Of course I do. DeSantis is awful. But I also think he came off like he was running away from Medicare for all. He ran away from abolishing ICE. I think he was pretty wish-washy on a lot of answers. And I think he kind of played it safe instead of going for it and sticking with what he actually believes, which, if you follow him in the primaries, was Medicare for all and a bold progressive agenda. I don't think that's the only reason. He hasn't technically lost yet, but that's not the only reason he's losing right now. Racism is real. It was prevalent in Florida. They were putting out racist robocalls in Florida and Georgia. I think that did happen, but I'm looking at the polls. If you go to Real Clear Politics and you click on the average of polls between Gillum and DeSantis, you don't lose 12 points in 3 weeks for no reason. So Benjamin Dixon, who's a progressive media host, I've met him, I like him. I'm not knocking him or getting in a fight with him, but I know that he kind of poo-pooed what I don't know if it was me, but he poo-pooed any people saying he lost because he moved away from his progressive. Then why did he lose? You can't say a candidate lost 12 points in 3 weeks because of racism. I'm not saying that because I'm insensitive or, obviously I'm white, so there's white privilege, but that doesn't make sense by the numbers. Like, he won the primary. And by the way, if it's all racism, then how did Florida just pass restoring voting rights for 1.4 million felons, predominantly African American? Those two things don't go together, to the people saying that. The optics of sitting next to whispering little nothings to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, doing fundraisers and campaigning with Hillary Clinton, doing fundraisers with Michael Bloomberg, not exactly a great optic if you're pushing yourself as a progressive. And I thought in the debate, honestly, he had several openings and opportunities to really just smack DeSantis. Michael says, come on, he lost because of Susan Sarandon. It's always Susan Sarandon. By the way, Susan Sarandon shared our story, which I really appreciate. Now we're at 19,687. So our goal is 20,000 by the end of today. Who knows if we'll reach it, but, a little bit closer. So Got about a little over $300 to go. Thank you to Patrick, who just contributed. Patrick, you've contributed quite a few times, I believe. So thank you so much. So, you know, I hope Gillum wins. I don't think he's like a capital P progressive. I think he sprinted to the center, but I think he's better than DeSantis. And somebody called me out on Twitter like, oh, so Jordan, lesser of two evils is okay on the state level, but not the national level. Yeah, in my view, yeah. Number one, I don't live in Florida, but I do live in America, so I generally care more about what's happening in all of America than in a state I don't live in. That's kind of human interest. I don't stay up at night worrying about what's going on in Idaho. Not because I don't care about Idaho, but because I don't live in Idaho. You know, like, it's kind of like what's in front of your mind. I do stay up worrying about Flint and other places like that because I care about these places. But if I am voting, I'm just talking about me. You guys could do whatever you want. But when I'm voting for a president, well, a president can start wars. A president can get soldiers killed. A president has the power to either blow up that income inequality chart more or lower the income inequality chart and start getting equality. A president has more power than a governor as far as closing the racial divide economically, as far as prison reform, as far as stopping this mass gentrification, as far as investing for government jobs programs in inner cities. A president, the implications are major to the country and the world. So yeah, I am much more critical on who I'm going to vote for president or who I'm going to support. And in most cases, I won't just accept the lesser of two evils, because if you keep on continuing to go with the lesser of two evils, you always get crumbs. At some point, you have to break that model. But on a state level, yeah, I would probably go for someone like Gillum. I didn't think Beto was amazing. I think his record doesn't match his rhetoric. I think if you read the story that's up on statuscoup.com, he was doing fundraisers with fracking lobbyists. That doesn't exactly match his progressive credentials. But would I rather him than Ted Cruz? I'd rather a fucking bunny rabbit than Ted Cruz as a senator. So, before I end, because Jen's not feeling well, so I don't want her to have to do the live chat all night, and she's got children. I want to thank you for watching. We've been live for almost 3 hours. We had, I think at one point, nearly 200 people watching. I don't know how much we've raised, but we've raised a good amount of money today through the Super Chat, through the GoFundMe. All I'm asking you guys, I know that everyone's got their own story. Everybody's got their own situation. When I was at the Young Turks, obviously things ended there a certain way, and I've already addressed that, but I eventually wanted to go start my own media company because I truly believe that, the vision that I have and the vision that Jen has, most outlets don't have that vision. Most outlets just want to do clickbait and bullshit and just make profits off of easy, substanceless nonsense. Whether it's Trump, whether it's Russia, whether it's the food fight in Washington, D.C., and I just don't have an interest in that. I cover news of the day on this channel when I'm not in the field, but I have seen what real journalism could do for downtrodden communities. And in these early days, we just launched our website. Our company was literally just launched a month ago. It's definitely hard work. I'm not going to lie to you. Jen and I had a conversation yesterday that we need to raise more money. So we are transparent in our struggle and our triumphs. But we thank you. Thank you, Dana, for the $10 in the Super Chat. We thank you because, people like Jimmy Dore do Super Chats on Saturday and have a much bigger audience. He's been around longer, and I'm jealous of his audience. I love his audience, but we thank you for contributing your funding, your support. Let's definitely, if you can't support us on GoFundMe, if you can't support in the Super Chat, definitely just share the videos. Also, if you don't know, YouTube has been suppressing this channel for quite some time. Sometimes it's less so than others. It seems they're doing it again, so a lot of people aren't even seeing the videos we uploaded from Flint. So please, if you haven't clicked on those videos, watch them. We went to Flint. We're here to inform you. We're here to activate you. We want you to know. So definitely go check out these videos. Thank you for watching, and have a great, great rest of your Sunday. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Cheryl, I know you have stories in Canada, and I know you wrote me. I get a lot of emails and a lot of things coming to me. I'm not ignoring it. I will cover as best I can. Can't do everything, can't answer everybody, can't cover everything, but I do what I can, and that's it. Thanks for watching, Pete. Thanks for watching. Peace out.